challenges and opportunities for implementing the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 in Uganda, and to provide visibility to the contribution of the Embassy of Norway towards the advancement of women, peace, and security. I would like to say that women's participation in building peace and security is critical because these are often more affected by conflict and suffer particular forms of violence on the basis of their sex and gender. Furthermore, fueled by harmful gender norms and gender inequalities. Since 2000, when the UN Security Council adopted this resolution, the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, as the national machinery for the promotion of gender equality and women's empowerment in the country, has undertaken a number of initiatives aimed at promoting women and girls' participation in the areas of peace and security. And some of these initiatives include the development of the first and second national action plans in 2008 and 2011 respectively, which focused on the prevention and elimination of sexual and gender-based violence against women and girls in war situations in the country. Secondly, supporting local governments to develop local action plans on peace and security, which have resulted in the establishment of women and peace committees in some districts across the country. And would like to thank those districts for establishing those committees. Further, it led to the establishment of the National Technical Committee, which is a multi-sectoral committee that provides guidance on issues of women, peace, and security in the country. Furthermore, we built the capacity of women to influence and engage in formal and informal peace-building processes in the communities. And we also developed a strong legal and policy framework that supports women's meaningful participation in peace and security efforts and addressing gender-based violence. We've also trained and sensitized the local government leaders on the need to allocate resources towards enhancing women's participation in peace-building initiatives. And finally, the development of the popular version of the National Action Plan 3 on women, peace, and security. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, this program will enable the government to sustain the gains made in the first phase, but also to strengthen women's meaningful participation in peace and development processes in this country. The Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development is fully committed to ensuring the implementation of this new program. I would like, once again, to take this opportunity to thank all the partners that have supported all the interventions that we have achieved, as well as the National Technical Committee for working in a coherent and efficient manner to ensure the delivery of those outputs that I listed earlier. And I would like to thank you most especially because in the review of NDP 3, one of the areas that had been identified was the need for ministries, departments, and agencies to avoid working in silos. And I'm happy that we have achieved this by working as a team with all the different partners as well as CSOs to deliver on this program. I would like to thank all the development partners so much for always working together with the ministry in ensuring we deliver this, and especially Your Excellency, the Ambassador of Norway, Your Excellency, the UN Resident Coordinator, as well as the UN Country Representative and all the embassies, and also the European Union delegation in Uganda. We'd like to appreciate all the partnership and support that we have achieved from you. As I conclude, I wish, therefore, to believe that since we are here together today, we'll be able later on to deliver on what we shall have agreed upon out of this launch in terms of implementation. And it is my hope that we shall have better outputs at the next time when we are reviewing how the implementation of this program has gone through. And with those remarks, I would like to thank you so much and wish you fruitful deliberations. For God and my country, A.D. Chivenge, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juliana Naumo, representing the Permanent Secretary. I think we now have the commitment, once again, even for the second program running, we have the commitment from the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. And I love when she talked about sustainability of the gains that have already been achieved by the first phase. As we go on, of course, we were joined by our Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, and that is none other than Honorable Betty Yamongi. Thank you so much for sparing time off your busy schedule to come and be with us. Of course, there is nowhere we can be talking about this, and I fail to recognize all the women's civil society organizations that are represented here. You could just wave to us, all the women from the different civil society organizations. Sometimes the men call us noisemakers, that we are crybabies, noisemakers. Every time we are pushing women. But I mean, yes, we have to stamp our feet until we can be able to recognize the gains that we are fighting for. And I love that earlier on, Claire did talk about the norms, the social norms that continuously perpetuate gender inequality. And that is the reason why you will see these women here continue to speak about issues of gender equality. But I also would like to acknowledge Honorable Hajat Oleru Huda, who is the State Minister for Defense and Veteran Affairs. Honorable, thank you so much for making it time off your busy schedule. And without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's listen in from the UN Women Country Representative, Dr. Paulina, to come and speak to us. Let's welcome her warmly with a hand clap.
Honorable Minister for Gender, Labor and Social Development, State Minister for Defense, Her Excellency the Ambassador of Norway, Her Excellence our Resident Coordinator for the United Nations in Uganda, representative for the Ministry of Internal Affairs, representatives from local government, all government officials present here today, women leaders, members from civil society, especially women from civil society organizations, colleagues from the United Nations, my colleague from UN Women, and other UN agents present here today. Good morning, and may I say all protocol observed. We are really blessed here today, don't we? It's the first time that I see we have women leaders joining us for such an event. Let's clap for them. So it's an honor to address this meeting, and I would like also to express my warmest gratitude to the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, UN Women and civil society organizations that have been part of the planning process for a job well done with organizing this event, and to everyone here today for making time to attend this. We can see they really did a good job to organize this. Congratulations. Yesterday I was calling for my communication officer around 4:45 We were in the office, we are planning for another meetings because maybe I'll take this opportunity also to announce that next week we will have country representative for UN Women from 13 country offices. They will be here in Uganda. Uganda, you are blessed. So I was looking for him last. I said, but I am here in a, I'm trying to organize for this meeting for tomorrow, 5 p.m. Yesterday. So, they really did a good job. They worked days and nights, and we see the results. So allow me also to thank our dear partners and friends of UN Women from the Royal Norwegian Embassy for trusting UN Women and for trusting the government of Uganda, and for their unwavering and outstanding commitment to generously support the second phase of this Women, Peace and Security program. Some of us were here yesterday. In this very room, we were discussing financing for gender equality. And we know the challenges that we discussed yesterday and the challenges that globally are going on as far as financing for gender equality, not only for gender equality, but funding in general is shrinking in many areas. And we know quite a lot of things that have been happening in the world. We had COVID-19, which affected the global economies. Before we closed our eyes, we had war in Ukraine and Russia going on, again affected our economies. So it's very rare that you get a committed donor who can give funding for gender equality. And I said yesterday that, when there is a financial crisis, who suffered? I asked this question, who suffered most? It's activities related to gender equality. But we have a committed partner like Norway who believe in gender equality and women empowerment and girls empowerment, and are willing to trust us with funding. So we really need to assure the Norwegian Embassy and the Royal Norwegian Embassy that we are going to be accountable. We as UN Women, we at the UN, and that's why you see our UN resident coordinator is here. We at the government of Uganda, and that's why we have our Minister of Gender. We are going to be accountable. We are making sure that we are going to spend these funds according to what is meant to be spent. Yeah. I'm very excited to see how far Uganda has come since the adoption of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 in 2000. Uganda started its implementation in 2008 with the development of the first National Action Plan, and is currently in the second year of its third National Action Plan, which started in 2021, which will end in 2025, which was one of the major milestones in the first of the Women, Peace and Security program, and the pace setter for this program, for the new program that we have. Before I highlight the focus, no, I'm not going to highlight the focus of the program because my colleague Claire have already highlighted. We have had a lot, we know the ins and outs of the program, but maybe what I'm going to say is just to highlight a few results, a few achievements from the current program. One, the government of Uganda developed and launched its result-focused third National Action Plan on WPS for 2021 to 2025, which has been cited as a best practice, particularly in regard to the inclusive process of its development, and this has been complemented with localization at the district level. A total of 7 districts developed local action plans, with 4 out of 7 committing 1% of their financial year 2021 to 2022 district budget towards the implementation of the local action plans. Uganda is one of the first, and indeed very few countries globally, that has taken this commitment to the sub-national level in local action plan, and this is highly commendable. We have quite a number of countries in the world who have developed their national action plan for the implementation of the UN's Resolution 1325. But Uganda is unique. It's really among the very few who have taken this to the local government level. Uganda have managed to develop local action plan. And we're really proud, and I'm really glad the Minister of Local Government is here today because they have really taken this. So let's clap for them again. Key government ministries, departments, and agencies, as well as civil society organizations, have improved knowledge on the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 and have made commitment towards the NAP3 WAPS implementation. These have made easier with the increased availability and access to data on WPS following the completion and dissemination of a baseline report on perceptions, knowledge, and implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 in Uganda. And this survey was conducted by Makerere University in 2020. So we really appreciate the involvement of the academia in our work because they have, you know, the theoretical knowledge. So if we combine, then we achieve the result that we want to achieve. Additionally, there has been a notable increase in the number of women taking up leadership positions at community level. We know at national level, Uganda is leading the example. We have quite a number of leaders at the national level, women, but also at the community level. I think we have LCs throughout most communities in Uganda, which is really good, and we appreciate this program. During my recent CATES call with the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs, which was one of the key partners under the first phase of this program, the minister indicated that significant progress has been made in creating awareness on the importance of advancing the Women, Peace and Security agenda within Uganda People's Defense Force. And this is unique. And I'm glad the state minister is here today to join us for this event. So the ministry is now in the final stages of drafting its gender policy. And we are looking forward to launch it, hopefully before June, as we discussed with the minister when I met him a few months ago. So we are looking forward to that. The policy will guide the ministry on engendering the Uganda People's Defense Force, UPDF. It will guide its structure and enhance women's participation within the Uganda People's Defense Force, which is really good, which is really great, and we're really proud of the Ministry of Defense. Ladies and gentlemen, while we acknowledge that over the years we have witnessed significant progress, it's however important to note that these achievements have to be sustained. While we are celebrating, but we have to make sure that we are going to sustain these achievements. And I'm sure all of us together we are going to have mechanism to make sure we are sustaining all these good gains that we have achieved. We have new and emerging issues every day that continue to undermine women's participation in peace building. We are warned that the effect of ignoring our own commitments to women, peace, and security would be long-lasting and intergenerational for women and drastic for the world peace. So let's not ignore. Let's be serious. So this launch is not only a gathering to consolidate successes and highlight challenges, but also to inspire and motivate all of us to accelerate implementation of women's peace and security agenda. I encourage all of us within our capacities to demand that women are meaningfully represented in peace processes to enable us achieve the inclusive and sustainable peace that we all envision. Our MC, when she was talking here earlier on, she made reference to what is going on in Sudan. So we really need women to be on the sitting tables when these discussions about peace are being discussed, because women are serious. We want to see peace. We want to silence guns. As I conclude, I want to affirm that UN Women is committed to work with you all in finding that change of direction and forging a new path forward. We look forward to continuing such engagements with the government of Uganda and non-state actors on this agenda that unites us for lasting, inclusive, and sustainable peace in Uganda and for all worlds. And we also urge women leaders to work shoulder to shoulder with us to make sure that we sustain peace in Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paulina, and I think you emphasize it as much as it should be to have the women on the table to make the decisions. It's gone are the days when women had to be on the side, the men talk, and then the message is delivered to the women. They now have to be on the table and engage in that discussion. Before we go into our next phase of the program, we also have a special message that is coming in from the Women, Peace and Security Secretariat in the New York. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll seek your indulgence. Let's take a look at our screens and receive this message. To our technical team, over to you.
Said the common United States and Romania. We look forward to Women, Peace and Security updates from members from across the world and hearing more about Uganda's progress and lessons learned on women, peace and security in that context also. UN Women and Women, Peace and Security Focal Points Network Secretariat remain committed to support Uganda. Congratulations again on the launch of this program, and thank you.
Thank you so much. That is the commitment we have from the Secretariat itself. And of course, thanks to Uganda as well for being exemplary, the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, and all the other partners who are here, not only to discuss, but there's been implementation. So there is work that has so far been done with regard to gender equality, with regard to women, peace and security, which is a discussion we are having this morning. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, now to switch to another session of our opening statements, where we'll be listening in from another lot of our leaders before we can officially have this launch, and then delve deeper into a discussion, because the key issues to be able to talk about, issues like climate in relation to security. Sometimes we think climate is just relating to food security and all that, but how interconnected is climate? We've all been talking about climate change, the weather patterns are changing, but how correlated is it with security? Earlier on, Claire did also mention the aspect of peaceful coexistence, especially when we get to look at the refugee communities. I was in West Nile last week, and a district like Obongi has a refugee community that is 3 times more than the indigenous. So the locals are about 50,000, and then you have 3 times of that, close to 250,000 of the others are the refugees. So will there be this peaceful coexistence? Will the locals be able to understand? Because if we're talking about Sudan, we will definitely have a number of them who are fleeing the insurgency, those who are fleeing the unrest and conflict there, to seek for peace in other neighboring countries. Key aspects that we'll be taking on in our panel discussion. But allow me invite the United Nations Resident Coordinator, Her Excellency Ms. Susan Ngongi Namondo, to come speak to us. A round of applause for her.
Honorable Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, the Honorable State Minister for Defense, Your Excellency the Ambassador of Norway, also recognizing the representatives from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, local government, and all ministries, departments, and agencies here present, our district, local government officials present, and of course, representatives from civil society, and standing on all other protocols. Good morning. It gives us in the UN great pleasure to celebrate the progress that Uganda has made in the advancement of women, peace, and security agenda. I think it's been mentioned before, but in 2000, this really was a landmark resolution, because it was the first time that the Security Council recognized that efforts to build and maintain peace and security are more effective and sustainable when women meaningfully participate and have influence in relevant political and security decision-making processes, and when their unique needs, experiences during conflict and crisis are meaningfully addressed. The resolution addresses the gender dimensions of armed conflict, the undervalued and underutilized contributions that women make in conflict prevention, peacekeeping, climate resolution, peace building, and the importance of ensuring women's equal and full participation at all levels. Earlier this year, when the UN Secretary General was issuing his message for the year, what he called on was for us to put peace at the heart of our words and actions, acknowledging that in 2023, we need peace more than ever. And I think that has come out in the previous comments. The UN's proposed new agenda for peace includes a focus on investing in prevention to avoid conflict, as well as greater participation of women and youth. The implementation of Uganda's 3rd National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security, and the launch of this program, Peace and security moves us really strongly towards this direction of greater investment. Because the turmoil has been mentioned both in our own neighborhoods and in faraway lands. There is a lot of turmoil in the world. And I think an investment, we can all agree that an investment in peace, social cohesion, conflict prevention is definitely good. I commend the commitments of the government of Uganda as demonstrated in its progressive NAP3, which has been recognized worldwide. Paulina spoke to this as a blueprint on how to implement this important agenda. I also applaud the 10 ministries, departments, and agencies that have developed operational plans to implement this at the institutional, national, and local level. We sincerely applaud the district local governments of Yumbe, Amuria, Kaberamaido, and Kasese, which committed 1% of their district budget towards the implementation of the local action plans. We can only hope that this continues across other governments. I also urge the government to consider including women, peace, and security in the gender and equity tool that tracks compliance and commitment to MDAs towards gender inclusion in their plans and budgets. This might facilitate Uganda's third National Action Plan on Women, Peace, and Security to be better financed, to be more fully implemented, and effectively contribute to sustainable peace at all levels, especially transforming the experiences of the most vulnerable. And of course, while we applaud all the progress that has been made, I think recently, and that came out, I think pretty much when everybody spoke, that we still have challenges in terms of norms. We know that women are still not as included as they should be in terms of these very important discussions. We know that our societal habits haven't really caught up with some of the things that we know we have to do, the investments we have to do. So I think we can only urge that we tackle more vigorously the norms piece and really try to change our communal habits as regards how the expectations we have of women, the role that we expect them to play, the space that we're willing to give them in these very important processes. Through the cooperation framework 2021-2025, the UN in Uganda continues to advocate and support the government and people of Uganda to uphold and promote a peaceful and inclusive society for sustainable development and provide access to justice for all and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions as provided in SDG 16. We know that this, of course, aligns with Uganda's own Vision 2040 and its National Development Plan. And we commend all the work that has been done in that area, and of course, we look forward to continuing. I was introduced to the current National Action Plan a little over a year ago. And what I observed there, and of course, this support happens at all levels, at the national and local levels. But what I observed in my first introduction was a very deliberate focus in terms of supporting the local level, and a very deliberate focus in terms of working with local civil society organizations. I was thoroughly impressed in the 2 or so interactions I had with this group of people, and I hope that, I see that we've maintained, but I hope that somehow we can manage to grow, because I think that's where we really need to build a lot of capacity, quite frankly. And when we talk about sustainability, I think a greater effort needs to happen there for us to see that greater sustainability. As I conclude, I also thank the Norwegian government for the grant of $5.2 million to support the government of Uganda's efforts on NAP3, and it sets a clear vision for women, peace, and security agenda. And of course, as Paulina has said, these are incredibly difficult times. Committed partnerships really ought to be celebrated. We cannot take them for granted. And I'm very grateful for all the efforts that the government has put, but not only the government, the representative of the government here in Uganda, the embassy have put in terms of actualizing this support. Thanks to all the partners in the room, and of course, from the UN side, we look forward to continuing our engagement in this very important, on this very important issue, and the work that we have started over the years. Thank you all.
And indeed, I will start off from where Her Excellency Susan Ngongi ended, the appreciation of the Royal Embassy of Norway in Uganda for ensuring that there is money that speaks to gender equality and the partnerships at this point in time. And without any further ado, because of the appreciation and the lauding that we've given to the Norwegian Embassy for the work and ensuring that that second phase of the Women, Peace and Security comes to PERS program, allow me invite Her Excellency Ambassador Ellen, and Your Excellency, allow me not to mention your second name lest I murder it. So I will keep in the safe zone and keep Ambassador Ellen. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes to speak to us.
Honorable Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Honorable State Minister of Defense, UN Resident Coordinator, Country Representative of the UN Women, fellow ambassadors, UN staff, government representatives, civil society representatives, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Women are key to enduring peace. The UN Security Council recognized this 22 years ago with the adoption of its landmark Resolution 1325. Many more resolutions, studies, and voices from conflict-affected countries have validated this since. Gender equality and women's leadership are interwoven with and key to peace processes, peace building, humanitarian action, and sustained peace. The Women, Peace and Security Agenda is part of a long-standing tradition of promoting women's rights in Norway's foreign policy. We have for many years committed to being a driving force in this agenda. UN Women has been and continues to be a close partner in some of the most important processes we are involved in these issues. Norway have invested globally, politically and financially in the Women, Peace and Security agenda, including during our recent membership of the Security Council in the UN and in bilateral cooperation. Norway and Uganda were among the first countries to develop national action plans in 2006 and 2009, respectively. These action plans have included women's participation in peacekeeping operations, in peace negotiations, as mediators, protection of women. Norway supports the global network of female mediators, and as we know, Ugandan women play an important role in local, national, regional, and international peace initiatives. Our support to Uganda also includes developing the third National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security, which was launched by His Excellency, the President of Uganda in March 2021, and I had the pleasure to be present at that occasion. And this is one of the first in the world to address WPS issues related to climate change and health outbreaks such as Ebola and COVID-19. Integration of prevention of violent extremism is another important aspect that Norway recognizes strongly in the Ugandan third NAP. So we are proud to work with Uganda in these important endeavors. With the support of Norway, Uganda has made major milestones with the localization of the National Action Plan for Women, Peace and Security at district level. 6 districts have developed labs. Previous supports has also contributed to women playing important roles in local peacekeeping. for example, in July 2021, women peace mediators from Kotiro district moved border to meet with their counterparts from Turkana side, and the meeting contributed to the reduction of cattle raids by Turkana. So congratulations with that. Uganda is host to a large number of refugees, as we all know, and a high percentage of these refugees are women. Women's participation in this context is becoming even more important also in peace and security perspective. In Uganda, Norway is supporting women's empowerment through the UN Women, in particular economic empowerment, humanitarian response, and refugee hosting in refugee hosting districts. It's especially great to see how the LEAP program has been able to create new livelihoods and job opportunities for women, while at the same time improving their skills. Through training, women have been supported to take part in decision-making processes and are now attending forums where their voices and opinions matter. Women's representation in the refugee welfare committees has increased from 10% to 54% in Adjumani and 15% to 46% in Yumba as a direct result of the LEAP initiative. And I like to say that I was able to experience this progress just after I arrived in Uganda in 2019. I think it was my second week at the job. I'm looking at Claire now. And I was just whisked off to the north. And it was sort of an experience I never gonna forget. With the energy and the joy and everything that happened during that day where we were celebrating the progress. So thank you for that, UN Women, and I'm leaving in August, so I hope maybe it's possible to go for another time, but we will see if time allows. So in conclusion, I would like to acknowledge the important work of the representatives present here today and the role of the women in Uganda in contributing to peace and security. Throughout my work, which has been, my career has just been pretty long. I think I'm probably the oldest person in this room. So I know that in order to do this job, we also need men to participate and to work with us. But I like to echo what Paulina said. This work has to be led by women because women know what to do, and we are kind of no nonsense. No offense to the men, but this is this is my experience for a long life, from a long life in diplomacy. And on a personal note, I think one of the best things I will take back with me from Uganda to Norway when I leave in August is to work with a strong, impressive, great Ugandan women. And also recently with the ditto representatives of the UN and other organizations. I think the women is taking over in Uganda. When I arrived, we had I was the third ambassador, female ambassador, and the UN offices were mainly headed by men. So watch out, we are taking over. And I think it's a good thing. So, on the more serious note again, Norway is looking forward to continue supporting the implementation of women, peace and security in Uganda through the phase 2 of this important program that is launched today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Ellen, and I would like to say that we will actually miss you. It's just a few months countdown, and without following protocol, I think on your request to get back to northern Uganda, you're seated in between two ladies who can responsibly, unofficially or officially take you to northern Uganda, the two ministers, the State Minister for Defense and Honorable Betty Yamongi right there. whisper. They will get you back to northern Uganda in the quickest time possible. Of course, thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for the commitment to gender equality. And without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, allow me invite the State Minister for Defense, Honorable Huda, to come and speak to us. Of course, she's still with us. She's going to be closing, but allow her invite our Minister for Gender, Labor and Social Development. Let's welcome her with a round of applause. Honorable Huda, come through.
Honorable Minister, let me just use the Ugandan way of saying that when you don't want to make a mistake in considering protocol, as Ugandans we have developed a very simple way. We just say all protocol be observed so that you're not in a problem. So I want to take that the same Ugandan method of saying that I have observed the protocol. I am happy that, Honorable Minister, I am here in launching this very important Women and Peace Security Program, Phase 2. And now here, I'm just to do a very simple task of making 1-2 statements and invite you to come and address the delegates who are here in this important function. Honorable Minister and delegates here, as Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs, we have not been left behind in pushing for the issues of gender equality. In that ministry, we are doing a lot. As one of the presenters had already said, we have now moved far. We are concluding in making the Minister of Defense gender policy. That one, within 2-3 months, indeed, it will be launched. Honorable Minister, we have moved further. In our own way, we have affirmative action when we are doing recruitment in UPDF, especially when you consider professionals. When we are doing recruitment, we give percentage for our girls and women to join UPDF. That one, there's no negotiation about it. And the Minister of Gender is already doing that. We have moved further. We have a special UPDF spouse desk to handle the issues of women. In that desk, we have so many issues, including domestic violence, including empowerment of the spouse. We do a lot using the spouse desk under Ministry of Gender and Labor Development. In that ministry, Honorable Minister, we are so blessed that our PS is a woman. So there's no way that you can discuss about issues of women and you don't get the opportunity. To even make it much more for us, we have the Undersecretary of Finance, who is a woman. That's what we are doing at that ministry. Only that at gender, at the Ministry of Defense, we don't overdraw our trumpet. But we do a lot, really, to promote women, the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs. Honorable Minister, with the support of UN Women, we have gone further. We have established a home-based care that we are using for handling our veterans. You know, the veterans, some of them had the accident during the course of the war, and when they go back, the order of the day is domestic violence. And who is the receiver of that? It's the mother of the children. It's the woman. Therefore, we now establish that program. We are looking for where these people are. Up to the last village of this country, We follow you there. We do counseling so that you are accepted in the community. And when you are accepted, you establish a family where people live happily. That's what we are doing under Ministry of Gender, Labor, and specifically under the directorate that I'm heading for the Veteran Affairs. Honorable Minister, Uganda participates so much in peace mission. Therefore, as Minister of Gender, Labor, whenever we are sending our troops to go for peace mission, we give percentage for the women, whichever UPDF women that are going, when you are going out, we give percentage for the women because we know the women are peacemakers and they can bring the peace. And indeed, where they are, I'm so proud to form this meeting that they do a very good job. That is how far we have gone as Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs. Therefore, I am happy that you have recognized that ministry and you have invited us here. But now, lastly, Honorable Minister, as a Member of Parliament, representing the people of Aringa East from Yumbe district, a district that is hosting a big number of refugees, I think I should just make a statement, just one statement, and then I invite you. Honorable Minister, there was a time in this country, all the people in that region were refugees, either in the Democratic Republic of Congo or South Sudan. And therefore, for us, as the people of Yumbe, we were all in South Sudan for 8 years, 8 good years as refugees. So we have experienced it. Therefore, when this time it happened that our own brothers and sisters are going through what we went, we have opened our hands to receive them. We have a very good coexistence with our brothers and sisters who come from South Sudan. But to make it worse, it is just these artificial borders that were created. Do you know most of them, we speak the same language? So why should we create an unnecessary conflict when you know this is your brother, this is your sister? So I want to assure you that we have a very good coexistence with our brothers and sisters whom we can artificially call refugees in Yumbe district in West Nile. Therefore, Honorable Minister, with these few words, can I take this opportunity to invite you to come and address the delegate? Oleru Huda is my name. You are welcome, Honorable Minister. The platform belongs to you.
The Minister of State for Defense, in charge Veteran Affairs, Her Excellency the Ambassador of Norway, Her Excellency the UN Resident Coordinator, the UN Women Country Representative, members of the diplomatic community, representatives of the government MDS, local government, civil society, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and pleasure to join you and to welcome you all to the launch of the second Women Peace and Security Program to run between 2022-2026, titled Women Lead and Benefit from Sustainable and Inclusive Peace and Security in Uganda. In the year 2000, the United Nations Security Council adopted a landmark UN Security Council Resolution 1325 that acknowledged the disproportionate and unique impact of armed conflict on women and girls, and the vital role they play in conflict prevention and resolution and peace building. The UN Security Council 1325 established a powerful normative framework to ensure women's needs, voices, and perspectives to prevent, resolve, and recover from conflict and build sustainable peace is recognized and harnessed. This resolution is based on 4 main pillars that emphasizes the meaningful inclusion of women in participation, protection, prevention, and relief recovery during and at peace-building processes. As you are aware, Uganda was among the first countries in Africa to develop a national action plan on the UN Security Council Resolution 1325. And I think Ugandan women have been engaged since then. And we have been committed to implementation of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda. This commitment has been demonstrated through the development and implementation of the first and second national action plans, which ran from 2008 to 2010 and 2011-2015 respectively, and 2021 to 2025, and was officially launched by HE, the President, on 8th March 2021. I'm glad to inform you that since its launch, the National Action Plan 3 is in second year of implementation. Uganda has also made major milestone with the National Action Plan implementation, and most outstanding is the localization of the NAP3 implementation in the following districts: Kaberamaido, Chegegwa, Kitgum, Yumbe, Amuria, Kasese, Luero, Arua, and Gulu City so far. The localization of the implementation is one of the good practices cited globally and was quoted in 2013, 2014, and 2016 in the UN Secretary General's report of the Security Council. So I think we need to applaud Uganda. The government of Uganda, working closely with UN agencies, women-led civil society organizations, academia, and other stakeholders, have played a central role in this localization. As Uganda aspires to attain a middle-income country status by 2040, sustainable peace, security, and stability is critical. We therefore applaud the NRM government for the investments in maintaining and promoting peace and stability in the country and its neighbors. And here I want to be an example that I don't only stand here as a minister, but I think I was driven to politics because of the issue of peace and security. I graduated from the university in 1999. At that time, Northern Uganda was in war, and almost all our people were in IDP camps. I was moved to join politics because of what I was seeing in IDP camps, especially where there was a barracks at the backyard of our home, and how I would see soldiers at night having women as girlfriend, boyfriends, and so on. But after that, when they disengaged and they dismantled that barracks to take it to another place, most of the women remained single mothers with the children from the soldiers. But equally, when there was war, running became a problem because most of the men were compelled to join the local militia to support UPDF to fight the LRA insurgency. So majority of the women remained as breadwinners, as people paying school fees, and we depended on the relief from government and the UN agencies. So for us, we grew up knowing World Food Program. So and I'm sure the Honorable Minister knows this very well. So for me, I grew up knowing World Food Program. And we had to fight to say, when you come to distribute food for World Food Program, do not write the names of men as household. Write the names of women. Because some men had 3 wives with girlfriends. So I was one of those who fought so hard. And when I saw that it wasn't working, when I graduated in 99, I said, I'm going to be a member of parliament so that I can make them understand what is required for a local person to be supported. And I picked a form in 2001 after graduating in 99, and I won to be a member of parliament. And that was my primary goal, and from that time up to now, I've been a member of parliament. But in the middle, in 2006, because of the work I had done in my region on peace and security, when the government of Uganda agreed to initiate mediation and peace talk between the LRA, I was picked in 2006 to lead the leaders of northern Uganda, composed of members of parliament, LC5 chairpersons, and religious and cultural leaders, to go to Juba to be the observers. And at that time, we were called the observer team. I chaired the observer team for the Juba peace talks. The government of Uganda was chaired by Honorable Dr. Ruakana Rugunda, then Prime Minister. And at that time, Juba did not have even any facility. When we went there, we were sleeping in tents. I had a 2-year-old son. And as a woman, I was given leadership. Your theme here is women lead. But that leadership sometimes, as a woman, comes with sacrifice. I had to leave my 2-year-old boy and stay in Juba from 2006 until 2 years after. In between that, we were being told, you are the community. And Kony would say, I'm not talking to government. If you know the people who are calling yourself leaders from northern Uganda, if you want peace, you come to me in Garamba. Garamba is a big forest outside Juba. So we were given a UN plane to take us, and I was the leader of delegation with the bishops Odama, with the Norbert Maus, with the Wu. We were brought a UN chopper. I thought it was a beautiful one, but when we reached there, it was a chopper which takes food. It was as old as you can think about. But we went, and at that time, the one who was mediating is the current vice president, still the vice president then. We went with that 1.5 hours. We landed in the middle of the forest. We went with one cloth, thinking that you are going with a chopper and you're coming back. We land at 4. What were we told? Kony had sent Oti and Dominic Ongwen to meet us. Those who have been in the international community knows those 2 names. So Dominic Ongwen and Oti says, Kony has said he doesn't want anybody from anywhere. He only wants people from leaders from northern Uganda. So the mediator, Riek Machar, says, it is now up to you, because I have come with protection, and in between this and this, when you cross there, it is not my territory. I can't protect you. So we were asked, those who want peace, to go and meet Kony, you cross that side where Dominic Ongwen and Oti is seated. Now, for me, I'm the one with the chair. The chairperson of the leaders of northern Uganda. So we had the RDC at that time, the late Ochora. Those who are there, I think, knew Ochora. So Ochora said, for me, I'm sick. I cannot go. So I go to Mao. I said, Mao, now what do we do? you are chairing the local council, because at that time he was chairman LC5. I said, you are the chair of all the local leaders. I am the chair of the overall. Let the two of us cross. Kama Mumbaya. So we agreed with Mao and we crossed to the other side. We stood there waiting for others. After like 10 minutes, people were whispering, and we saw about 4 others, including Bishop Odama, cross to our side. So we started walking, and we thought the walking was like 2 kilometers. We walked. Those who were fat with big stomach dropped. We ended up walking for 17 miles. That is where we found Kony. So for me, I've seen Kony with my eyes. So as we were walking, all the men were saying, do you think you're going to survive? You? Hey, when Kony has been abducting women for wives, are you going to survive? So you can imagine what was going through my mind. But we reached there. When we reached, he had his beautiful hat. We sat there. And what does he tell us? Oh, you people of home, you know our culture. When you come and visit someone, you sleep. So we are going to kill our chicken, we are going to eat, we are going to converse, we are going to have fire, and then tomorrow we shall talk. You had come with one what? Imagine from a chopper to landing with one cloth, to being told you go there, you're going to talk with the coin. You thought 2 miles, you walk 17 miles, you reach there, then you are told you are sleeping. But you are not even seeing where you are sleeping. Because the whole place is a what? So, at night, we were taken to tents. But do you think you can sleep? In the night, something came like a chicken over what? Kwara, kwara, kwara. Eh! So I can never forget that experience of Juba Peace Talk. But what I drew from it, at the end of it, we came out with what we call cessation of hostility agreement. And that cessation of hostility agreement facilitated Kony to accept for the UN and the religious leaders that we had gone to secure a route so that all his soldiers would leave northern Uganda and be stationed at where we call Owiny Kibul in South Sudan. And once we achieved that and religious leaders came back, we created the open route for him. All his soldiers were escorted in peace and on the order of His Excellency the President. After we had negotiated, we came and briefed him. He accepted to create a buffer zone, and we deployed the religious and cultural leaders to be in the trucks. All the soldiers of LRA moved to South Sudan in Owiny Kibul. And that was the only agreement signed out of the 5 themes, only one. And it is that only one that brought peace to northern Uganda. So when we talk about localization, it is very important that we localize this and we understand that you, at the local level, you play an important role. The religious leaders, the cultural leaders play an important role. And so we are mindful, of course, that although we have generally achieved peace, there are still some pockets of insecurity, like in Karamoja. There are still land conflicts in some areas. Gender-based violence is still an important issue, as well as my colleague talked about conflicts in our neighboring border. Again, when I was in Parliament, we had an association called AWEPA, that is European Parliamentarians for Africa. So they came to support our parliamentarians to go and train parliamentarians on peace and security. I was contracted. I went to South Sudan. I went to Rwanda. I went to Somalia. But the day I arrived in Somalia, a member of parliament is going now to train European Union, and we are going to train Somalia. I thought it was the way they had told us, it's okay. We land like this, and there was a big bomb in the airport. So we are in the plane, they bomb the airport. Then you are told, remain seated and calm. Imagine these people in the plane, the way they talk. You know they talk. Enjoy your flight. We had enjoyed the flight and you landed. Then the thing is boom, and we see everything happening, and they are still telling us, remain seated. We are monitoring the situation and remain calm. Human beings, can you remain calm? So that all, we were whisked with the UN vehicle, with all this, they call it what? The bulletproof it, these things you have to wear, what? Then we reach now because there it's UPDF. If you go to Somalia, it is from the president to everybody, it is the UPDF that looks after them. All installation. So we go to the parliament as we were being checked. Another bomb where we were being checked. Again, blue. That is where I said, I will never go back to Somalia. But I still managed to train the women for 2 days. I managed to support them to form the Affirmative Action Committee, managed to engage the elders, because there it is a clan. It is the clan. So if you want to input anything within, you must go through the cultural clan. So we managed to at least talk to them to be able to include women, so that when their agenda is being discussed, is being debated, they are able to integrate it, because they were doing their national constitution. So Uganda has been very pivotal in the Great Lakes region and in trying to ensure that we get peace. The Honorable Minister has already talked about West Nile. When you reach West Nile, you find refugees are in host community. Some of them have even bought land. And some of the people in Uganda are saying, why do you allow people who are from elsewhere come and buy land here? If you walk around this city, you will find so many Sudanese with homes, well-established built homes. Those generals, their second home is Uganda. So really we need to applaud Uganda for this. And so for me, today I want to say that the launch of this Women, Peace and Security program, the second one, with the theme Women Lead and Benefit from Sustainable Inclusive Peace and Security in Uganda, is very important to the policy that Uganda has executed and the policy that we continue. Therefore, I want to reiterate our commitment in focusing on establishing a multi-sectoral mechanism to ensure implementation and enforcement of laws and policy that address issues of women, peace and security, including gender-based violence, economic empowerment, plight of refugees, access to justice, very important. Many women out there, even you seated here, you are battered in that house, then you put on your makeup, you come, they tell you, you go to the police and go to the hospital and get police form 3 so that you can be, what will my in-law say? What will the society say? Am I lying? You might find even someone seated here was battered last night. But you tell them to go to police. And yet we are talking about access to justice. But what I've liked is that those local women have become more empowered than you people. Because you people, you are protecting sijui your name, sijui your what. But those women, they are fought these days. I'm going to Elsie. They go to Elsie and report. Many women out there are now empowered. So let us really protect access to justice and strengthen our women. And if we are to strengthen their women, the women's participation, let's also start this localization, penetrate the cultural institution, because most of these issues are resolved and the social norms and rules set within the cultural setting. The clans will sit and say, this is the rule for the clan. So if you go like in Buganda, don't you see ministers who go to meet Kabaka or Katikiro? You see them kneeling down to greet without exception, because the cultural setup rules is what make you accepted in society. So it is important that when we deal with these things, we need to get what is the social structure around which we engage women so that they change from within. So I now want to take this opportunity to thank the UN Women and the UN Fraternity for collaboration and support for women, peace and security agenda implementation, and the government of Norway for the generous financial support that has facilitated the implementation of the program, and for working with us. You know, Norway is special to me because it is the first country where I flew to. So my first experience in a plane was to go to Norway, to a place called Oslo. Then when I reached there, it was summer. I reached at 7, and then I went and slept a little bit and set an alarm after 3 hours, thinking I would go down for dinner. Then I wake up, and it was shining, thoroughly shining. So I got out, I thought, is it breakfast, is it lunchtime, or is it dinner time? Then they said, here when it is summer, it shines up to midnight. So you know where to eat. If you want, you go in a town where people are, they have waters all over where they sit, and in the evening in summer. So I went, that is the first place I tasted salmon, Madam Excellency. So you can see, it is in my heart. So I'm grateful that again you have been here to support us financially. With that, I want to conclude at this juncture and invite the team for the launch, that we can be joined and officially launch the Women, Peace and Security 2 program. I thank you so much for listening to me.
Kindly requesting that Your Excellency Ellen join in, Your Excellency Susan and Paulina, please come join in. And to you, Honorable, our State Minister, please come and join in as well. And I would also like to invite Commissioner Nakafero on, I beg your pardon, Juliana, to come and join. You represented the PS. Yes, we're going to launch this officially. So do we come up, or I think it's better up? Up, yes, up, there is more space. Right here. I just whispered earlier on to one of my neighbors that you see fitness, eh? Did you see what the RC just showed us? Some fitness. She doesn't need to use the stairs. All right, they're great. I was saying I earlier whispered to my neighbor and said, if Honorable Amonge starts speaking about her experience with security, the day will not end, and that's exactly it. Sat with her about 3-4 hours, and I said, you know what? We'll continue this story at the next time. So officially, we are going to have this program launched, the Women, Peace and Security 2 program, and we will request that our minister will just unveil that in 3, 2, and 1. Thank you so much. A round of applause, and we are going to have you just sign, append your signature. Can we please have the markers right here and have the minister's signature appended to this, because over 50 million US dollars that we are talking about and dealing with a number of issues, dealing with a number of programs. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister Betty Amongi, for coming through. In just a bit, we will definitely be having the markers here and append our signatures. And as we do, Honorable Minister, I'm going to request that before you actually go out, you will give us less than 10 minutes. There are women from the Luero Women Development Association who have a special message. I won't call it entertainment, but a special message with regard to the discussion that we are having right here. The paparazzis, this is a very good picture moment, lest you get to ask for another one at a later stage. And I am going to request the RC to just get straight so that you're not crop zoned. Please, this is an era of crop zoning, so you may end up being in the crop zone. And yes, the markers are right here. Thank you so much. So each one of us at a different time will append their signature. Yes, Honorable Minister, please go ahead and have your signature appended to that. Honorable Minister, I thought you were going to use the red marker because you seem to have teacher instincts in you. But thank you so much for sparing of all your time and for the words of encouragement and affirmation coming in from the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. As we were told about the role of women in peace and building a conflict resolution prevention process is very, very key. Let's have the RC append the signature. Let's have the ambassador, Norway. I think now it's going to be a tit. It's going to be an exchange. That Honorable Minister Mongi will take the ambassador to northern Uganda, and the ambassador will take you back to Norway once again, so you can have salmon. Once again, I hope you will not find it summer this time. There will be a bit of the winter coming through. So thank you so much, Your Excellency, Ambassador Ellen, and for the commitment that we're getting from the Norwegian Embassy in Uganda. Very true to what Paulina did say, the resident representative of UN Women, that at such a point in time where the budgetary cuts left, right, and center, having someone committed to gender equality and women empowerment is a great commitment, and it cannot be taken for granted. That is our State Minister for Defense, Honorable Huda Oleru, State Minister Defense and Veteran Affairs. We cannot talk security and not bring in defense, okay? Thank you, Honorable Oleru. The RC, please, can we have, you can even sign in diagonally, you can sign in a hexagon or whichever way it goes, so we can all have our signatures appended right there. And after the RC, I'm going to request that the representative of the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Gender, as well, gets through after we get to have Dr. Paulina append her signature right there. And to every one of us, we're left with just one more session to go, so I kindly request that we will all be seated, and I know that you are already settled as is. We're just going in for a panel discussion, and in that panel discussion, it's going to be engaging. We want to listen in from our experts on the panel. Everyone in here is an expert in their own way, but our experts on the panel are going to be addressing a number of issues relating to gender, relating to women, peace, and security. And among some of those, we'll be talking about countering violent extremism. In this day and age of terrorism and violent extremism, how can we be able to deal with these, and of course, not leaving the women behind? The issues of climate change that I was talking about much earlier on, how do we get to loop in with regard to security and empowerment? And then we'll be speaking about elections. I know Electoral Commission booked a table right at the back so that they can be able to see everyone while you're speaking. So elections and women's situation room, thank you so much. And then we'll also be talking about the localization of the National Action Plan. A round of applause to the official launch that we have just received. Right now, we can officially say it is a rollout of the Women, Peace and Security 2 program that has so far been launched. So allow me invite the women from the Luero Women Development Association in just a few minutes to come and speak to us and give us the message that they do have this afternoon. Let's welcome them with love. Let's welcome them with a round of applause. Very, very smart. Sorry, kindly requesting if Philip, we can have this removed from the podium. Will be very easy for us to have the women present. Just hold on a minute and let's have the stage cleared so we can have enough space for the women to be able to present.
Security, women, peace and security is key. In conflict situations, women and girls suffer the brunt of the effects of the violence, rape, abductions, gender-based violence, so let's protect them all. Situations, women and girls suffer the brunt of the effects of the violence, rape, abductions, gender-based violence, so let's protect them all. The women, peace and security agenda is here. Peace and security agenda is for you and me to ensure that peace prevails. Women lead and benefit in conflict prevention and response. Lead and benefit, then peace will prevail. So women lead and benefit in conflict prevention and response. Lead and benefit, then peace will prevail. Peace, 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 we all need peace. Women need peace. Peace, peace and security. Women, peace and security is key. Let's take stock of our progress, celebrate the achievements, learn from the past, forge for the future. Where are the women? Where are the girls? Have them protected and peace shall prevail. We thank the Ugandan government, the UN women, real embers of Norway, the development partners for supporting now free. Peace, 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 we all need peace. Women need peace. Peace, peace and security. Women, peace and security
haven't been in studio where you have to sit down and think about the tune and think about the words and then putting the things together becomes another totally different experience. So thank you so much, the Luero Women Development Association. Thank you so much for your time. Now, before we delve into our panel discussion, let me just request that we all stand up. If you are able to, please stand up. Let's just stand up and stretch. You've been seated for about how many minutes? How many hours? About 2 or more? It is not healthy. It is not healthy. We are talking about peace and security. Your health is as well important. So let's just stretch up to your right. Okay, your left is my right. So let's stretch up to the right. The women are going to start saying, I am in heels. You remove your heels and step on the carpet and stretch. So we go to the left. So we stretch to the back. Let's see some people who go to the gym or those who just use the elevator all the time and are driven. Now the last one, feel free to remove your shoes, but I want you to touch your toes if you can. Just bend forward and touch your toes. I am seeing some people's hands ending at the knee side. I say toes, let's go back down. Now you know the reason why you need a gym. Even at home. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We can take our seats once again. Like I said, we only have just one more item left on our program, and that's going to be our panel discussion. I won't say heated panel discussion, but it's going to be heated with ideas, and I want us to engage as the audience. It's not going to be just the panelists who are speaking, but just before they come, we have a very short video that we would like you to pay attention to, because it's been a journey. If we are talking about the Women Peace and Security Program Phase 2, that means there's been a Phase 1. What work has been done? What lives have been impacted? And to which communities have they been? What do they think about the program, which warrants that the Embassy of Norway gives us money once again, more than 50 million, which is being injected into this. So I'm going to request the technical team to just play us that video, and we will get to appreciate the very reason as to why we needed to have this launch and the reason why we need the second phase of the Women, Peace and Security program, please. And as well as while we continue, I know we had some coffee, we have been taking some tea in case you need some places of convenience. As you step out, turn to your left. You'll find stairs downwards and still use your left. You'll know the places of convenience that I am talking about. So to our technical team, please, let's have that video playing. And after that, I will invite our panelists.
commitment to advance all the core pillars of 1325. This is something that really showed the commitment of all actors, including endorsement from His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda.
Norway has strongly advocated for 1325 from the beginning, and this continues to be a key foreign policy priority for Norway. And UN Women has been and will continue to be a close partner in some of the most important processes we are involved in.
The overall goal of NAP3 is to ensure sustained peace and security through enhanced and meaningful participation of women in peace and development processes.
So the third National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security is unique in such a way that we are mobilizing from the grassroots to the national level. Another area that prompted us to develop our third National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security is in terms of ensuring that women play a critical role in peace building, including the peace missions. Uganda has been sending out peace missions in Somalia, in Burundi, in Western Africa, and other countries. And we feel that as women, we need to be part of that process.
UN Women has implemented the localization strategy to strengthen the capacity of local authorities to contextualize, design and implement policies and strategies that address the issues that undermine the peace and security of women and girls in their communities. Through this strategy, the district local governments of Amuria, Kaberamaido, Kasese, Yumbe, Kitugum, and Chegegwa developed local action plans that address the specific conflict issues in their local communities.
NAP2 was interested into women, peace and security, having us locally see what are the conflicts that currently is existing in the districts, and how do we put in structures to help us curb the conflicts. So we sat in a number of meetings, we did a lot of panel beating, to the extent that we now came out with our objectives, we now came out with our implementation plan, and key among them was how do we empower our own structures to handle issues of conflicts. We are also looking at how do we make more women and youth come into leadership, participate in making decisions that concern them, and more especially we are interested in how can socio-economic transformation be carried out, or how do our women participate in socio-economic transformation.
To harness a social economic recovery and political participation of women and girls in conflict and post-conflict situations, UN Women worked closely with implementing partners like the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs to ensure increased access to justice for survivors of conflict.
This relationship has enabled us to build capacity within our structures and institutions for us to do gender budgeting, gender planning, and other aspects of that. Now, one of the other enabling factors I would say is that through the call center, automated, we've been able to generate issues, particularly women calling in on their pension issues, their issues of gender-based violence that they call over. So through that, we then provide referral pathway. How can you be helped for help? But also, most importantly, is that we've been able to establish our own legal aid clinic for provision of pro bono services, legal pro bono services to poor veterans, widows, and orphans. And these issues have, to to a large extent been on issues of land, succession rights, issues of procurement of letters of administration, and so forth and so on.
The project also built capacity of refugee women to participate in peace building and recovery planning processes.
We had our first training by International Peace Center. Then we started working together. You know, now as women, we agreed together that a woman will remain a woman. Whether you are a refugee, whether you are a host community, educated, uneducated, you will remain a woman, and the challenges you face are all the same. So there is need for us as women to show to the other community that we live together. What we have been doing mainly is, as a peace mediator, what you do is you identify within your community what conflicts are there. And if there are conflicts, how do you resolve these conflicts? You go into this conflict, identify with these people, then begin talking with them until when you bring them at the same level.
I learned a lot. That thing built confidence in myself. I came back during the campaign season. I stand as the chairperson of the village. I went it through. It really helped me how I can lead the community. Like women, I need to talk to them. They should not sit down in case if they face challenge. Like me, I'm a peace mediator. In case of anything, they have to come to me. Then I will involve RWC1 also. We shall still solve their problems because I learned how to solve their problems at home, the minor cases. Now, if it is the cases of SGBV, I'll immediately refer the fileman. I will refer, I will not touch on these things. But the minor I do solve them. I have the knowledge of it.
Right now, as we talk really, the Turkana and the GA, it is very rare that few people, like 2, 3, maybe they go and steal the cows and come with. Or maybe they come from Turkana, they steal something and they go with. But real raiding, it has already stopped because of the mediation we are really helping, which is really helping us really. And all this happened because of the seminars and the trainings which the peace initiative, like the peace center was doing for us.
The project, through its implementing partner, Coalition for Action, CORACT, trained 67 youth peace ambassadors on youth engagement in peace and security. In Yumbe district, for example, the youth peace ambassadors engaged in monitoring human rights violations at community level and reported up to 195 cases through the toll-free line established by CORACT during the COVID-19 lockdown.
So we trained 7 from the district. When we reached on the ground here, we formed, with the support from CORACT, we formed a community-based organization, Rwenzori Youth Peace Builders Development Organization. Then we slowly by slowly we started running out our work plans. One of our work plans was a mitigation on the floods. You know, with floods, of course, in Kasese couldn't have peace, and with this river Nyamwamba that was affecting us. So one of the activities we decided to do with the community members around, with the help of the local district. Here we were able to plant a good number of bamboo trees along River Nyamwamba, which has really affected. The banks have been bursting and dispersing people from their homes. And here we see ladies being affected most.
I went to Kaberamaido district, where I'm the peace ambassador, and trained these girls on how to have self-confidence, how to stand out for themselves. I counseled and guided them resettlement and mediation of these girls, because since we were dealing with adolescents, these girls engaged into sexuality at a very young age because they lack counseling and guidance. When we trained them, they were able to stay in school and resettle.
Cultural and religious leaders were key stakeholders in promoting the project agenda. At least 85 religious and cultural leaders from Busoga and Rwenzori sub-region participated in training for duty bearers and rights holders on women, peace and security, and demonstrated their commitment to the agenda by developing a 5-year action plan and establishing an implementation committee for the same.
And so we participated fully looking at our issues. What is that is affecting us? What is that bringing the violence in our community? And so it wasn't one man's idea, but it was at least from all corners of life in Kasese district here. And so thanks to COACT that we were part in the formation of the local action plan.
We have kind of improved the way we mainstream the issues of security, peace and security for women. We have put plans which are more clear and focused, other than how we have been doing it in our cultural setup. It is now very clear the agenda that we need to move and popularize the resolution 1325 more than the way we did before. Before we had peace builders, peacemakers, but they were not very focused. We were just calling them Senga or what, but now the role is very clear after the UN women training. Their roles are cut clear compared to what it was before. And we know that this is going to be focused on women and also making sure that the girl child is protected.
Despite these achievements, more needs to be done to ensure there is an enabling environment for implementation of commitments on women, peace and security. Over the next 4 years, UN Women, with funding from the Government of Norway, will support the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development to implement the 3rd National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security.
Looking to the next phase of this Women, Peace and Security programme, we've received great and very generous support from the Government of Norway to implement a programme from this year up into 2026, so for 4 years, focusing on the implementation of Uganda's National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security. And the real focus of this programme is looking at ensuring women's participation and benefit from peace and security in Uganda. Here we're looking at working in 15 districts across Uganda, looking at in these districts targeting critical issues to do with transitional justice by working to implement the transitional justice policy, as well as looking at issues to do with prevention of violent extremism, as well as climate change and the conflict triggers within climate change and how to address this, as well, and finally looking at the systems and structures that are there to be supported to actually implement this agenda at a national level, but at a local level as well.
A round of applause to what so far has been done by the UN Women family, and that is the very reason why we are here. I didn't hear that hand clap a bit louder than that, because there is work that has been already done. And I applaud the fact that we are not only looking at, when we go to leadership, we are not only looking at the political leadership, but we are also involving 2 key institutions in our day-to-day life in the country, and especially when we are talking about the African context. The religious leaders and the cultural leaders are very, very key if any program is to be able to trickle down to the very, very last person. So a special thank you to UN Women, a special thank you to the entire team that is implementing the Women, Peace and Security program. Let's head on to our very last one, and this is not going to take us more than an hour, and we will be out of here, and that is our panel. And in no particular order, allow me invite our panelists. This one is a women's rights activist, an environmentalist, a lawyer by profession, but also a certified human rights defender. And she is currently employed at the National Association of Professional Environmentalists as a senior officer, legal and gender affairs, but also has over 8 years experience in carrying out advocacy campaigns on women's rights, talking about issues of land rights, climate change, and natural resources conservation. A huge CV indeed it is, but ladies and gentlemen, allow me invite Joan Akiza Msime as one of our panelists to take to the stage. A round of applause for her. Let us welcome Joan. Let's give her some love. So Joan, thank you so much. I can't wait to speak to issues of climate change and security. There is a lot of fitness in this room, but there are stairs here and the other side, please, just in case you will need to use it. And also to another one who I respect as much, is a founding member and the executive director of the Coalition for Action on 1325, that is the UN resolution, and she's a professional educationist and communications specialist, a feminist and gender activist and peace practitioner whose work focuses on women, peace, and security, the very reason that we are here and why we're talking about this. And she's also a trained and accredited mediator and has extensive experience building knowledge and capacity in peace building and conflict transformation. That's at different levels. Huge CV as well. I may not be able to read it out entirely, but ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Robina Rubimbwa, please. Robina, we are happy to have you right here, and thank you very much for joining us. In no particular order, once again, you know, interestingly, I started off with the ladies, and you know they always say ladies first, unless there is danger. If there is danger, I don't start with ladies. I start with the men. They create the way, then the women come through. Okay, to our next panelist, who is a senior lecturer in the Department of Religion and Peace Studies, Makerere University. He also has over 30 years of experience in the areas of religion, peace, and conflict studies. And he's also the executive director of the Center for Interreligious and Intercultural Dialogue. Remember earlier on I hinted on the issues of extremism, which has become the center stage for terrorism. And we get to ask, what are those factors that attract people? I am calling upon Katende Abdul Fattah, Dr. Katende Abdul Fattah. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes to speak to us. And of course, not forgetting, after having my panelists, we'll also be speaking about localizing the National Action Plan. And I am privileged to as well invite the Executive Director of Women's International Peace Center, that is Dr. Helen Kezinwoha. Dr. Helen, please make it to the stage. I love the gender balance here. Look at this, just a big round of, I've been to so many panels and literally the gender balance is the moderator being female. And that is what we normally have. So big thank you to UN Women for ensuring that we have gender balance. But we also have in our midst the operations manager at UN Women, Dr. Benson Okech. Dr. Benson, I know that you've had sleepless nights to ensure that this... You people are not clapping yet, we are getting closer to lunch. We might finish this panel discussion and dismiss you. Anyway, that was just tongue-in-cheek. And of course, we'll be going on straight to our discussion, our panel discussion right here. And still in no particular order, let me start with the gentleman. Dr. Katende, I want to start off with you on countering violent extremism. Of course, Uganda has done quite a bit, but if we remember years ending 2021, 2022 thereabout, where we had the twin bombings in Kampala, and so many other times that we've talked about bombings here, and the rise of radicalization and violent extremist attitudes and networks and the actions there has become a center stage, and that is why we are talking about terrorism. And when we look at the consequences there, including now widening more the gaps between the men and the women, it becomes a key issue for discussion. So in the context of Uganda and the work that you have done, what are some of the underlying push factors? Because we hear of stories of suicide bombers, and you ask yourself, how does one get convinced to have the gust of blowing themselves up with other people?
Thank you very much. I was told to discuss about only the push factors and not the pull factors, but I think the question you are raising concerns mostly the pull factors, the issue of ideology. A person tying a bomb around his waist and goes into a market and explodes it there. Those are mostly driven by ideology. They believe that they have been called upon, they are God's defenders. They have been called upon to defend God, and there are many rewards awaiting for them. Paradise and very good things. In some of the texts they talk about even many women awaiting those who actually explode bombs and kill themselves. And what is very funny in some of these instances, even family members rejoice when someone, now can you imagine a person who goes, Madam, the minister here, when she was talking about the experience in Garamba, she said she was afraid meeting Connie and so on. But here is somebody who goes ready to die and knows that actually if there was just one bullet shot here, all of us will run away. But these people say to them, they are more happy to die than to live. What motivates them? Mostly it's this ideology that actually they're doing this as God's work, and this world is not very good. The hereafter is better, and so they are ready to go. And also, as I said, many rewards await them when eventually they go. But I'll discuss the push factors.
Yeah, and exactly who also is at risk most when it comes to violent extremism?
Now, mostly these are youths, mostly. It's mostly youths, and the reason for this is that the extremists mostly target youths because they want people, youth have a lot of grievances, unemployment, poverty, and so on. Youths also have a lot of time. It requires a lot of energy. Now, when you're talking about our coming here, some of us may not be able to accept. Now, if you recruited me, I don't have the energy to go and fight. It requires long-term commitment. So that's why they go for youth who have a lot of time. They say a long-term commitment for you to engage in extremism. But also, Hitler once said, whoever has the youth has the future. So if you're looking for something that requires a long-term engagement, you go for youth. But also, sometimes many of our youth have very little knowledge of critical thinking. Now, somebody comes and tells you that tie a bomb around your waist, go and explode in the market, and go to paradise. And you don't have the capacity to ask him, don't you want to go to paradise yourself? Don't you have children? I would want to be sure that you have 10 children, or your 10 children are already in paradise before you come and tell me to go to paradise myself. So that level of critical thinking also is very low sometimes. And they need such people who have very low levels of critical thinking. But also in many of our African cultures here, we have a saying that I read in my tradition, which says, "Emiti emito, gejigumiza echibira." In other words, that young trees thicken the forest. So many of these engagements actually normally need young people who can easily be manipulated, who have a lot of grievances, who love adventure, because youth love adventure. You say, let's go and fight, they are ready to go and fight. An old man like me will ask some questions sometimes. Why should I go and fight? But youth are very easy to engage in any act of violence. So those are some of the factors why it's mostly youths who are at risk of violent extremism.
All right, thank you very much. Joanne, I want to come to you on another issue that is climate change. I've always heard about the intersectionality, for example, between population, environment, and development. But then there seems to be another triangle of gender, climate, and security. How then do we bring in climate change to correlate with the aspect of security that we are talking about?
Thank you so much, Mildred.
climate change, being the long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns, it poses a security risk within the communities. And these security risks go a long way to accelerate the gender inequalities within which the grassroots women and girls live in. And this is so because when climate change happens, it affects women and girls differently. It's not gender neutral. And as a result of this, it accelerates gender-based violence, as women and girls have the sole responsibility to fetch firewood, fetch water, collect firewood, and also ensure that there is food on the table. And when such disasters happen that are climate-related, you find that women and girls have to walk a longer distance in search of these resources, considering that women are sole users of natural resources. And as a result of this, you find that there are child marriages that are happening because families are not able to put enough food on table, girls are forced to get married, there are teenage pregnancies that happen, and that is the whole intersectionality about climate change, gender inequality, and security. And as a result of this, there will be displacements that happen when natural disasters happen. And when such happens, you find that there are people that are displaced and are even staying in internally displaced camps as a result of climate-related disasters. Now, the setting of only living in internally displaced camps comes with its own challenges. The challenges are social, the challenges can be environmental and also economic, that impact on women and girls differently. So the whole issue of security, gender inequality, and women's rights and climate change, it's all interconnected in that the women and girls suffer more. In addition to child pregnancies and teenage pregnancies and child marriages that happen, you find that the women do not have enough information to even respond when climate disasters happen. As a result of the disparity in information, as a result of the disparity in training, as a result of the disparity in other mechanisms in economic empowerment. So it puts the woman in a position that they are able to face the climate-related disasters in a bigger way. They feel the impacts in a much sharper way than any other person would experience them.
All right, thank you very much. And this is where I want to now bring in the issue of leadership. Earlier on, the minister was speaking about why she picked up the guts to, participate in the elections and become a leader. But whereas aside from affirmative action, if you look at the women who are on direct slots for parliament, for example, it's a very minimal number aside from women members of parliament. So this is where I want to come to you, Helen. Elections and the violence that women face during the elections, I've listened to some experiences and they're horrific, and this is what has kept some women away. What has been your experience, and how is this a push factor to matters in security and gender inequality?
That's a lot of questions in one, but thank you so much. I think what we have learned over the years since we started implementing the Women's Situation Room in 2016 is that most of the violence we find during elections is something that has built up over time. It's as a result of the norms, the cultures, and inequalities that women experience just gets escalated during elections. You find that within the context in Uganda, elections is more of like an employment. It's a highly paid job. So it has become a do or die affair. We need to get there by all means. So you find people using so many tactics, including intimidation of women and also instigating violence in order to win elections. You also find that youth unemployment then makes youth available to be used for election violence. So you can see some of the economic and social factors that kind of stimulate election violence. But also you find that in some of the communities, there are communal conflicts. And within these communities, these ethnic, religious divisions also plays out during elections. People question the religion of people, Catholics, Anglicans, Muslim, Christian, as some of the issues. And you find that in many of the homes, violence is already existing. There's domestic violence. So taking the violence into the public space is therefore not, it's like it's already normalized. In 2021, we had the toll-free lines where people phoned in. We had the Amani app where people could report. Majority of the reports we received in the Amani app was domestic violence. Women who were beaten by their husbands for not voting who they wanted them to vote. So until we address the issues of norms and cultures that do not allow women to take decisions on their own, particularly to decide if they want to participate and how, who they want to vote for, it's not likely that we can address election violence or those related to women. You also find that during elections, political parties target women. And a lot of women don't want to be beaten. It takes a lot of guts for you to get into a space that is already violent. For you to be beaten, dragged, abducted, just because you're seeking public office. So a lot of families do not want their wives, their sisters, to be engaged. And if you happen to be engaged, the intimidation, the violence, the kidnap, makes it impossible for you to really participate in safety. So those are some of the issues that we see. But within that, we also need to question how politics operates. So you have godfathers in politics. You have those who anoint who the leaders should be. And once they have decided, it has to be that person. And these I don't know what to call them, godfathers, they can do anything to make sure their candidate wins. And that could include, violence against women. It could include using youths, to cause some kind of mayhap to confuse people during elections. And you notice that once there is violence, a lot of people don't want to go out and vote. Nobody wants to be killed because they want to vote. So sometimes there is, low turn-down of voters because they are scared. Even in the polling booths, you notice that some people actually come to cause violence, and so they scatter the voters. It's kind of a multiple layer of issues that cause election violence that also contribute to making it impossible for women to participate in elections. Until elections are more peaceful, but you also find that the response mechanism by election management bodies, by the security agencies, is not very fast enough to protect women during elections. And even though they provide, toll-free lines for people to call in, you have the police and the army guiding elections, many of them have also not been able to prevent those violences that we have seen during elections.
All right, maybe just before I leave you, I would like to bring in the role of women in stirring up that violence or discrimination. I know that the Electoral Commission is seated at the back, but I stand to be corrected, but out of the last election cycle, 51% of the registered voters were actually women. So I've always said if we were to decide in Uganda that we want a female president by numbers, we would just have that. But I want you to loop in the role of women in either stirring up that violence or even how they can be able to come in to bring down the violence. Because you earlier talked about issues of religion, where do you belong? But there is also the issue of fellow women asking, where is your husband? And you ask, is it the husband who is going to parliament or it is me?
Yeah, so one is the number of registered voters, but I think the most important is the number that actually comes out to vote. So even though we have, and I mean, which is commendable, and which is also natural because the population, we have more women. So if 51% registered, the question will be, did all 51 come out to vote? Or what is the proportion of women and men that came out to vote? Sure. So that analysis will enable us to know if the environment was conducive enough for them to vote. But when I talk about violence, I mean, in Women, Peace and Security, we always say that women are no sense. they are not saints. They also cause violence. Women instigate conflict. You know, we know in situations of war where women abuse their husbands and say, "You lazy man, what are you doing? Your mates are busy fighting." You know, or they tell their sons, "Go and fight," you know. So we know that. We also know that women have been used for intelligence gathering. They've cooked food. Women have also fought and handled guns and killed. So it's not as if women do not do that. So in terms of politics, women, I mean, like men as well. So many times we want to judge women based on their gender, and sometimes I think we become unfair to them, and sometimes we need to be neutral, that the terrain could allow you to become, you know, very hard on yourselves. That the politics that men play to undermine women's participation, women themselves also play it because they need to survive. And are we expecting that women should play politics differently? Yes or no? It depends on your, you know, your part of argument. Why should women be used as a standard for morality when it comes to leadership and when it comes to, you know, politics? We know that communities and women themselves have questioned women in terms of their marital status, their ability to have children. We had it in the last election. Some women were abused. "Oh, she never had children. What is she going to do? Oh, she never married. How can she even manage?" You know. But nobody questions the man never married. They even question women, "But how many men has she married? You know, who is going to be the..." But nobody questions men when they have several wives and they openly declare that they have concubines and the rest of it. So I think that the fact that women are being judged as the moral standard also is kind of negative on them, because you need to first question yourself: will I be accepted? Have I lived well? Did I misbehave the other time? Am I dating the right man? Did I marry the right family? You know, some of those prevent women, because those factors are going to be used against them when they bring themselves forward. We need to begin to interrogate and stop using gender-based factors to determine women who go into positions of power. Me, I've known women who never married, or who married, who didn't have children, who have been good leaders and prime ministers of countries, and they have ruled very well. That whether you have children or you're married does not determine if you're going to be a good leader. I don't know the relationship with that. So it all comes to our norms and cultures that determine how good a woman is. If she's a good wife, then she'll be a good leader. If she's a good mother, then, you know. But we all know who have children that being a good mother is also relative. You can be a good mother and your child turns out not to be very good. Who is going to be blamed? Sometimes the society and the way we socialize ourselves and our children is what facilitates this. And so addressing social norms and cultures and the way we view women then becomes very important if we need to change the landscape of women's participation in politics.
Thank you very much, Helen. I think it speaks to, one, the social construct. Let's stop using women as a yardstick for everything that should be good, and then when it turns out bad, we blame them. To Ms. Robina, on the issue of localization of the National Action Plan, Uganda has actually been commended by even the Secretary General himself. And there's always been this norm, this notion in Uganda that we're good at policies. We set up everything in black and white and it's super. Then other countries come, they benchmark, go and implement better. And we always fail or have challenges at implementation. So in your own view, what do you think has propelled Uganda's success in this localization of the National Action Plan?
Thank you, Mildred. I think the first factor is what we have here, the strong partnerships. It's been a partnership of civil society, the women's movement, the youth movement, the UN system, the government. I can't tell you how many times we write to Commissioner Angela requesting for an official to go with us for a localization workshop. It's been a great partnership. But also when we go into the local authorities, we make them partners. The district local governments, the city local authorities. We've already also done it in 2 cities, Arua and Gulu. The women on the ground, those in civil society, the women councillors. So it's a great partnership. And so you get energy from what everyone is bringing on board, and everybody knowing that I have cheerleaders, you know, at some point. When you sit at the national level, like COACT, you know you have cheerleaders all around you from our partners. But also when you are a district engaged in localization, you know that you are, the people that look up to you, that you lead, are cheering you on, because this is an agenda that addresses real issues, felt needs of communities. It brings down Resolution 1325 from up there, from New York to a village. It brings the National Action Plan from Kampala to the LC1. So it is that effective. So partnerships have been strong and have been effective. The second factor is that localization is, I would say, multi-sectoral as well as inclusive. When we engage in the process, we do not only talk to local government officials. We talk to the local councillors, we talk to the technocrats. We have women in the room from civil society, from women's groups, women councillors. We have the youth in the room. We have the media in the room. We have business leaders. We have leaders of faith institutions. We have cultural leaders. So they are multi-sectoral leaders that we bring on board. And so you are listening to voices from the spectrum of society. And it is understood in that process that each of those categories have a role to play. So the process enables each of the stakeholder groups to understand their role in promoting the women, peace, and security agenda, in ensuring that women participate in decision-making, including in leadership and in conflict prevention and resolution processes. So it is multi-sector, and so it enhances ownership. You know, the district education officer will know they have a role to play in ensuring that girls stay in school, as much as the local woman leader, as much as the parents, as much as the cultural leader, and that leader of faith who on Friday or Sunday has a pulpit to address people. So that makes it successful. The third factor is that localization is a comprehensive process. What we hear here in the room is about local action plans, but it's beyond that. And by the way, Uganda was the first country in the world to develop local action plans. We were not the first to implement localization, but we were the first to develop local action plans, and we have taught the rest of the world to develop local action plans. By comprehensive means, we have a series of capacity building workshops that includes a range of multi-sector leaders that participate in the development of the local action plans that is addressing community-level conflicts as felt by women, by girls, by local leaders. So that is one angle. So the local action plan is developed, and the district has a framework for gender equality and the empowerment of women. So that when other partners go into the district and they say, we want to work with women, they present the local action plan. This is our framework. How can you help us implement it? That is strong. Secondly, the local action plan is accompanied by training of local women in mediation. So that training of women mediators, creating women mediator networks in the local communities is a powerful tool that sustains peace building on a daily basis. Then the other component of localization is the establishment of peace committees. And these are government-recognized structures for peace. It's part of the government peace architecture. So the peace committee at the district level, peace committees at sub-county level, and they are trained. And we have worked hard to make sure that we have influenced the criteria developed by my colleagues in the conflict early warning, early response unit, Siweru, to make sure that now it is more gender responsive. So that women mediators we train are able to be selected as members of these peace committees, making it gender responsive. And these peace committees live in the community, looking at these, and they are chaired by the RDC, who are at the district level, who chairs the security committee of the district. Okay. Then the other component are our peace ambassadors. So once we have trained the women and we have peace committees, then we look for young people, the youth, and we carry them through a residential leadership and peace building boot camp, and we graduate them as peace ambassadors, and we encourage them to go and establish a youth-led peace building organization. So they are there in all the districts where we are doing localization. So you have the youth building momentum on this side. You have the women mediators building the momentum here. You have the peace committees, everybody working together. Then you have the district with their local action plan and the district community development officer ensuring that it is implemented, that it is integrated in the district development plan. So it is those things. But we also go to communities, to villages for community barazas, or call them dialogues. We hold dialogues at the community level, and we take the district leaders with us. We choose a village and we go and camp there. And the people, ordinary men, ordinary women, will be speaking to the leaders, talking about the issues that undermine peace and security at that level. Okay. So that is also another component of the localization process, taking it to the villages. But we also do radio programs. And these radio programs, we encourage women mediators to take lead. The women in each district, we have a partner CBO. They organize the radio talk show. They call on the leaders to go on the talk shows. Peace ambassadors are also organizing talk shows. So it's a very, very comprehensive strategy. Okay. And I would think that that is part of what has made it successful. In addition to our monitoring, we're monitoring, documenting, learning lessons to improve the next process.
All right, thank you very much. I think that deserves a round of applause because there is just a lot. And you can clearly see that the success is not just falling overnight or because Uganda is the pearl of Africa, but there is effort that is being put in. Joanna, I want to come back to you on the issues of climate change. And what do you think government should do or is actually already doing regarding to issues addressing the gender-related climate risks?
Thank you so much, Mildred. I want to start on a positive note that yes, government is doing something in addressing climate-related risks in relation to gender equality. And I want to commend government efforts in operationalizing the legal frameworks, the international frameworks on climate change, specifically the Paris Agreement, the Kyoto Protocol, and this has been done by bringing into force the Climate Change Act. And this act provides different mechanisms, the Climate Change Fund, on how climate change funding should happen, and stipulates other factors therein. In addition, various policies have been put in place by the government that are supposed to address and put in place mitigation and adaptation plans for climate change, and which are specifically meant to protect women who are usually affected more by climate change impacts. However, it becomes difficult to implement the National Climate Change Act without the regulations that are meant to operationalize it. And so we think that government needs to speed up the process on having the climate change regulations in place that are meant to make implementation of the act easier so that there is no loophole in implementing the Climate Change Act. In addition, climate smart agricultural techniques should be passed on to local communities or grassroots women so that they are able to be resilient and adapt, especially during times when climate change disasters happen. But additionally also is to mention that women and girls need to be strengthened. There should be capacity building for women and girls to be peace builders, especially in times when climate disasters happen. We have talked about them being affected disproportionately, and since they are the ones that suffer big impact, we should capitalize on them being peace builders. We should capitalize on their resources as women, on seeing how they can bring everyone together amidst such crises that happen, to see how they can be peace building, to see that they participate in local discussions, but also decision-making processes to ensure that they are not left out. In addition to that, there should be capacity building of local actors to identify and address climate-related security risks. Like we mentioned, climate change is a security risk. When there is no food, when floods happen and people lose their lives, when there is a loss of livelihood, when there are displacements that happen, it becomes a security risk. And in order to address this, the capacity of actors, local leaders, women, cultural leaders, religious leaders, they need to be empowered in how to resolve conflicts that arise as a result of climate change disasters. And when this is done, it will prevent violence from happening, because when such scenarios happen, if not well handled, they can lead to violent situations, especially in times when, in situations where people end up like in internal displaced camps or in other settings. Then to also mention is that there is need to integrate climate change adaptation and peace building objectives into planning and resilience building initiatives. The interconnectedness of climate change and peace building should be one of mechanisms that should be pushed forward by the government to ensure that at planning it is catered for, and also at implementation it is a whole process that is not leaving women behind, that is not leaving climate change issues behind, and therefore causing security risks.
All right, thank you very much. Now, if I could go back to Dr. Katende before we get to also engage our audience. Earlier on, while you were talking about the youth being targeted and the main culprits for radicalization, but also how women are affected by the violent extremist acts, how then do we get to use the same category that is affected and also targeted to deal with bringing an end to radicalization and extremism?
Okay, thank you very much. Just allow me a minute to complete the pull factors of radicalization.
Go ahead.
Among the other factors, there's poverty, unemployment, the feelings of marginalization. When the community feels marginalized, it's very easy to mobilize those people into extremism. Now, there's also a feeling of being targeted. For example, in Uganda here, many Muslims feel that actually the fight against terrorism is a fight against Islam. So they feel a little bit targeted. And I remember here the recent bombings, the 2021 bombings.
Yes.
After the bombings, there was a video, there was a WhatsApp message. Well, it could have been just a joke, but it said, if you are a Muslim, better run home because the police is now looking for you. Now that's the feeling people have.
I remember.
That actually the Muslims are being targeted. Now unmet and unmet social and economic expectations is also another factor. Now, disenfranchisement of the youth. You have a youth population which looks a little bit hopeless. They have no hope. There's no future, and so on. And therefore, they are very easy to manipulate into acts of violent extremism. Actually, one writer said that wars are declared by men who are too old to fight for those too young to die. So you can see that kind of manipulating the youth. Now the youth bulge. I was undertaking a study in Busoga recently, and you can see many young people who are just redundant. Now that is a very big danger. Very, very large population of youth. And I think somebody also talked about teenage pregnancies, early pregnancies in many of our regions. Actually, I think in Busoga, you may find a girl who is 20 and she has already 5 children. Now what happens now with this? Now there's also poor intelligence gathering as another factor. Now poor security response, sometimes the way the security responds pushes more people into extremism. Now unquestioned authority of the religious and cultural leaders. Many of who are not questioned, they say this is the word of God, don't question it. Now that somebody may say, so when you find this kind of people, kill them. Now if you try to ask why, say, don't ask. This is the scripture, this is the word of God, don't question it. So the unquestioned authority sometimes of our religious texts and the cultural norms is another problem. Now collapse of our traditional institutions, the breakdown of the family structures and poor parenting, these are also other factors. Now foreign and military policies, this is another factor. You remember here on the 2010 bombings, we live by Al-Shabaab, who said they're punishing us for our involvement in the war in Somalia. So sometimes this also causes, and also our porous borders, are very open, very difficult to be guarded. And then widespread access to illegal weapons. Uganda has gone through many wars, and so we have a lot of illegal weapons, and you have many wars in Congo, Sudan, and so on. We have all those weapons coming in here and there. Now women, as you said, are both, I think somebody already said that, women are perpetrators and victims of violent extremism. But they can play important roles in curbing violent extremism. First of all, women and youth form the first line of defense against violent extremism. They are important in detecting the early signs. The mothers, for example, especially the mothers, they are the first people to detect the early signs of change, whether as mother or husband. A woman can detect change in her husband or even in her children. So they are the first people to detect early signs of radicalization, and they may be even the first people to respond. Now they are good at providing counter narratives. They play a role in the formulation of policies and programs aimed at countering violent extremism. They are informers, providing information and support to security and other agencies. They play a role in civil society organizations and in promoting community resilience. They participate in law enforcement, in peacekeeping and security agencies. They are important in rehabilitation and integration programs. Women as mothers, they have a strong psychological and emotional influence on their sons especially, or even on their husbands. Now remember here, there was a study which was carried out at Georgetown University of fighters who had refused to say sorry for the crimes they had committed. But when their mothers came and talked to them, they were actually able to convince them to say, well, I think we are sorry. I remember here even Jamilu Mukulu, when he was brought to court and the mother came, Jamilu Mukulu cried. So the mothers have that power, emotional and psychological influence over their children and also over their husbands. Now, all in all, what I can say is that in my view, I think women can participate in any endeavors that men participate in as far as the prevention of violent extremism is concerned. And as you said, somebody, I think the moderator, that supposing all women are 51%, supposing you all decided to vote, you can easily bring in a woman president. Now there's something I want also to say. If all women and the youth shunned violent extremism and left it to old men like me, it will be something of the past.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think that's a very key aspect right there. It points to the fact that that population is small. So if we decide to say, let's leave it to them, they will be able to give up. And let me come back to the Women's Situation Room here. And I would like to ask Dr. Helen, what do you think then the Women's Situation Room is able to do or has been doing over the time, because I know the Situation Room has been here for quite a bit. to prevent or to be able to contain this election violence and violence against women from whichever end?
Thank you so much. So when we started off with the Women's Situation Room, we were in 15 districts in 2016. Based on the successes, we thought we should scale up in 2021. So in 2021, with support from UN Women, the European Union, and UNDP, we scaled up to 30 districts. In these 30 districts, we were able to train in each of the districts 50 women peace advocates and 50 youth peace advocates. We trained them in mediation and conflict resolution to be able to detect election-related violence and try to address it before it scales up. We also engage with election stakeholders, including the Electoral Commission, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, the political parties, Uganda People's Defense Force, and the police. And we engage with them so that they could support us in our peace-building work. During the elections, we set up physical rooms. In the first elections in 2016, we had 1 physical room in Kampala, but in 2021, we had 4 physical rooms in 4 regions in Uganda. And we do this work working with a team of eminent women who are more like our peace envoys, you know, that help us to engage and do the stakeholders engagement. And we have really benefited from the support from these different stakeholders, including the Electoral Commission, who actually allowed us to monitor in the last elections. We are accredited to monitor the elections, to document, and also be able to present a report to them of our observations, including, you know, gender-related violence during the elections. And in doing this work, we're able to work with 15 steering committee organizations, women's rights organizations, both at national and regional level. And they are the ones who did most of the training, working with us, but also identifying the women peace advocates and the youth peace advocates. There were a number of issues that we observed, you know, after the elections. We had consultations with each of these stakeholders, including the women we trained, and they were able to identify areas they think we should focus on in order for us to work throughout the election cycle. Because, like I mentioned earlier, violence does not just happen, you know, something brings about it. The issues of social cohesion, lack of social cohesion, issues of climate crisis, poverty, and the rest. So this consultation enabled us to develop a strategic plan which we are implementing for the next 5 years until the next election. And our goal in the Women's Situation Room is to nurture a culture of peace and tolerance in Uganda. And this is in recognition of the fact that election violence is a direct reflection of existing issues that only become prominent during the elections. What we are trying to do now is to continue that engagement with stakeholders in terms of supporting, you know, them and developing plans of action with them to address the gaps which we all noticed. But also, we would like to go back to those 30 districts. We have women we have trained. We have youth that we have trained. We want to now see how we fit them within the Uganda peace architecture and train them as women and peace mediators. And of course, we've always had support from Madam Flores because they are the ones who normally train the mediators, but also supporting us to establish peace committees in those districts so that they will continue to work and use these skills to address those issues that are likely to instigate election-related violence. We hope by doing this, we are contributing to the national peace architecture, but we are also contributing to the implementation of the national action plan. But when we also address the issues of values that we think we have really lost, we'll also be contributing to the parish development model. In relation to violence against women, we believe that if we train women peace mediators, and we include sexual and gender-based violence as one of the indicators that the mediators are going to be collecting, and we strengthen working with other partners, the GBV pathways, then women we will be able to contribute to reduction in domestic violence that can then also reduce election-related violence. We would like to continue to train these women, including data analysts who help us to understand what data is coming out from the women mediators, but also engaging with the district peace committees, as already explained by my colleague Robina, that within that architecture, we would also like to address the issues of climate change, the issues of economic empowerment, because these are intersectional issues. You cannot just focus on one issue and think violence will go away. Even if you are addressing issues of violence against women, there's issues of climate crisis that will come, there's the issue of poverty. So we are trying in this next phase to continue, but also to promote values, that we need to promote values. I know we have traditional values in Uganda that, you know, we respect each other, we love each other, we promote peace building. How do we support communities to identify those values that can help us to live more harmoniously, to address gender-based violence, to support youth, you know, in terms of poverty, so that in the circle, as we go around the next election, some of these issues could have been addressed, and probably, you know, with all this, we hope that, you know, election violence will be reduced. But just to mention, if you all listened, that UN Women is going to be working in 15 districts. We have more than 100 districts in Uganda. You know, you saw the budget is 49 million. We just got 5 million from Norway. It's really like, you know, a small percentage. So I really like to call upon other partners who are here to support this work so that we can scale up to more districts. If we work in 15 districts, in those 15 districts, there will be significant change, but that will not lead to peace building. We need to engage and do this work, you know, more holistically in more districts for us to be able to achieve the kind of peace and security that the National Action Plan is advocating for.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you very much, Helen. And I'm going to request the technical team. Let me just have 2 microphones. I am going to get to give a few questions, about 5, as brief as possible as it can be, so we get to finish off with this one. But as we go to the audience, I want to come back to you, Ms. Robina. You talked about the successes, and I could see a holistic approach to coming to this success. But sustainability is another issue. How are we planning on, or how are we already dealing with sustainability issues of localization of these national action plans?
Thank you once again, Mildred. Sustainability, I think, is an issue for many of our organizations. It's an issue for me to sustain, and my team to sustain, the existence of Go Act, for example, and I believe it's an issue for Helen and her team to sustain the Women's International Peace Center. So sustainability is a big question. However, what we are currently doing, and I hope that we can get more support to do more of this, is that we encourage local governments to integrate the local action plan in their development plan. So the districts integrate the lab in the district development plan, the cities integrate it in the city development plan. Our hope is that way they can plan for implementations of the interventions within the local action plans, within the usual planning and budgeting framework of local governments. So far, we have 4 districts, and the Ambassador of Norway mentioned this, that have already allocated 1% of their budget to the implementation of the local action plan. Please clap for that, because it is a huge outcome. And with these 4 districts, for example, Yumbe, they have been able to establish women peace centers that they are currently running to continue doing work around gender-based violence in host communities and among refugee women. They are also taking steps to sustain awareness raising. Every leader now is mandated, wherever they go, at whatever forum, to talk about the local action plan and the plans of the local government, the interventions therein, and the roles of different stakeholders. But UMB has also established male action groups. Now, these are initiatives that the district has taken without us. And for me, it's a mark that they are interested in sustaining the implementation of the local action plan. In Kasese, you saw that peace ambassador whose team has planted bamboo along the banks of the river Nyamwamba. That group is one of 6 that we have so far established. Are there any peace ambassadors here that came to represent the peace coalition, the Youth Peace Coalition? Please stand. Yeah, here they are.
Please stand up.
The peace ambassadors.
Let's give them a round of applause.
Good. And they are both male and female, as you can see. And their initiatives, but they need support, and particularly financial resources to support the initiatives that they are creating. Kasese has also now enacted a GBV ordinance. You know, so that's a step in sustainability. In Amuria, they have cascaded the implementation of the LAP to the sub-county levels, and they are holding sub-county chiefs accountable, and they are cascading it to the LCs, the resident district commissioner is here. But they are also engaging with the faith leaders and the cultural institutions in the district to take on implementation of some of the components of the local action plan. Okay. Secondly, as I said earlier, the LAP is a framework for women, peace, and security for the local authority. And so every development partner who goes into the district is given the framework and is asked to implement elements of it if they are talking about youth, if they are talking about women. So we believe that that will also help pool resources from different sources together to contribute to the implementation of the LAP. But you know, some districts struggle because they have very low revenue, so they struggle. Then thirdly, there are the LAP structures that all the districts that have a local action plan now have put in place. At the district level, they either have a gender committee or they have a LAP working group, whatever name they choose to call it. And the group at the district level is charged with monitoring implementation of the LAP and raising resources for LAP implementation. Okay. And then at the sub-county level, you also have working groups that are continuing to make sure that the interventions that are identified in the local action plan are integrated in the sub-county plans and actually implemented. And we have trained the community development officers who are the technical implementers at the sub-county level. And finally, also, the training of the women CBOs in each district, working hand in hand with the youth-led CBOs. These are already peace-building, women-led CBOs. They are already doing work with very little resources. But you know, women, they know how to stretch the shilling. You give them $1, they will go miles with that dollar. So the women-led CBOs are also on the ground, and they are doing this work. So those structures are structures of sustainability, but again, like my sister Helen has said, we are calling on for more support from the entire donor community. I'm glad that the European delegation is represented in here, the European Union. You know, we are calling for more support. There is a lot of work. The localization is not just addressing GBV, it is addressing land conflicts, it's addressing election-related conflicts, it's addressing issues of climate change, it is tackling teenage pregnancies and defilement, it is tackling oppression of women at whatever level. So I thank everybody for coming here, and our partners on the ground from the districts, from the women CBOs, from the youth. And thank you, Mildred, and the others for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robina. Clear strategies for sustainability, because it's one thing to have the development, to have the program in place. It's another thing to have it sustained, to be able to be advantageous to as many people as possible. So I'm going to take on the questions. Just raise your hand. Let us know your name and organization, but make it as brief as possible. I do not want to have the microphone taken away. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All are coming from one side, that's okay? Okay, and then I will come to this side. Yes, let's start with the lady in pink and then get the second microphone to her.
Thank you. Protocol observed. My name is Sayar Lilian RDC Muria. I want to quickly re-emphasize the achievements of the localization of our labs. Now, we engage communities on community dialogue, on barazas. This has been very important in fight against corruption. We are all aware that this is a problem for the country, and we are in it together. So the localization, the engagement has helped us to account to the community. I also want to emphasize the fact that this has enabled us have economic empowerment of our women. You know, because of this, we were able to open up a lot of VLSA groups that our women can now serve. Our women can now engage in small businesses. And this has also helped us in the fight against GBV, that they are economically stable. We are only now fighting with a few of the challenges that in some businesses you find the men want their percentages from the women after getting funds from their businesses. Okay. I want to...
As you conclude?
Yes. I want to also talk about the intimidation that women go through in as far as election violence is concerned, that if we were not on the, election of women MPs, it would be hard for us. That I witnessed a situation where one time in the directly elected constituencies, a woman was intimidated that, you know, there are situations where there are washrooms clearly labeled, this is for women, this is for men, and there are stubborn women who are entering into the one of the men. These are the kind of women who should never be allowed leadership. And so other intimidation ways of saying that, you know, in one situation, a woman was with a man in an open campaign, and she said, kindly send me that water. When she moved the distance to send the water, he said, that is their role. That's what they are supposed to do. And it's like brainwashed. And I still see that we have a long way to ensure that we are protected in as far as the election is concerned. Okay. But
thank you, RDC. Just for purposes of time, but thank you so much. That is heartbreaking. I mean, someone is just choosing to be kind, and they use it against you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. All protocols observed. Chomendo Mylian from Tunaweza Foundation. When you look through the room, I'm the only one in a wheelchair, and I've not seen anyone else with a clutch or anyone with a guide. So that means that we have been left behind. If I look through the video that was shown, I did not see any person with disability as part of the activities done in the past. I want to appreciate all the work that has been done, but also my concern is, as women with disability, as mothers of children with disability, you have left us behind. You have forgotten us. All programs designed people with disabilities. When I talk about the blind, when I talk about the deaf, when I talk about all kinds of disabilities, all these programs designed in refugee camps at all levels of intervention, we are left out. So if we are advocating for peace, please, women, remember us. We are part of you, and we suffer double jeopardy. Because if a bomb was dropped now, all of you can be quick to run, but I wouldn't. Because if I tried, I would make most of you trip over me. I need you to draw a picture of a war, of a child, of a woman with disability in the house, and we are supposed to run for our lives. How safe am I, and where am I supposed to run to? Even when I've survived, when we go to these refugee camps, the programs that are designed there, we are not rehabilitated. We are not considered, we are not taken care of. So it's trauma from home, it's trauma in the settlement, and life after. And my other concern is most refugees that are in Uganda now, some children are not going to school. So I see a generational gap. Someone settles, they're out of the camp. I have so many neighbors who are Congolese and Sudanese, and I see the kids home. Isn't there going to be a gap in that generation that has not gone to school? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Your point has well been taken home, and we hear you. So I'm going to request that as you ask, I am requesting that that mic moves to this side, please. We have some questions from this side. So let's have the next one and then move.
Thank you very much. My name is Prudence Atkwasa. I come from Action for Fundamental Change and Development. My question goes to Dr. Katende. I just want to say I'm a bit disappointed by us crucifying the youth for engaging in violent extremism. And I want to highly recommend that all partners here, civil society, government, and development partners, we all integrate in our programs a holistic approach of youth engagement. What we are seeing in Uganda right now is the struggle for inclusion among the youth. Yes, we already know the youth is a very big population, but how are we engaging them? We are leaving them behind, and then as they struggle to be part of the discussion, as they struggle to engage in politics, they are used, they are disfranchised. So we need a holistic approach. And he didn't, I think because of time, answer the question of where does radicalization take place. It is in our families. Where is the parent and the guardian when this young person is being enrolled into violent extremism groups? So we really need a very big and holistic approach in engaging all stakeholders to make sure that young people are not used and young people use their energies positively to contribute to women, peace and development in Uganda and in the world as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Prudence. Thank you very much. Yes, let's get to, where's the microphone this side? To her, and then we'll get to the back because we haven't had many from this side. Okay, let's first have these two, and then I'll have just two more. I'm going to close my eyes. I know that there's so many questions, but I don't think time is allowing us. So let's use a minute each, please.
Yeah, thank you everyone here. My name is Nyakaisky Grace, Peace Youth Ambassador with COACT. My question is in line with climate change, because I'm an environmentalist and I feel concerned about this. Madame Joanne was talking about the climate change and how the youth are also at the extreme end, being into the risks of violence and, conflicts. So my concern was, are there strategies that are set apart to mitigate climate change? And if they are there, are these strategies including youth? Is there a portion for youth to take part in this? Okay. And also in the national action plans, I feel like as we are pushing it down, we are saying women and girls particularly are the extreme end of violence and conflicts and all that. But as we take these plans down, I would wish that we pull up the youth, we engage them, so that if we have to solve a problem of conflicts, because it starts with them. We have our CBO called Youth Unveil Uganda, and in this CBO we are collecting youth who are in the villages and they are not in school. So we are using our little resources gathered from within ourselves. we are doing something called climate smart agriculture. And we need partners. So if there are those strategies that are set and the youth are taking part, please, I would like to know, and I would like also to take part with my CBO and with my other youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Will let us know. Let's get to that question. And then the last one from her on this side.
Thank you very much. My name is Juliet Mbambu from Kasese district. I'm a woman with disability. I thank COACT for having trained the mediators. I was trained as a mediator from Kasese district. We are 6 in numbers. We have gone down to train more. And as a person with disability, when I got the information, I couldn't keep it myself. What I did, I went to the ground and formed a group called Wera United Women with Disability. It is a group of 15 women. I trained these women in mediation. From there, we multiplied. The 15 women went down to some organized CBOs and trained these women in mediation process. So the COACT can bring here Juliet alone as a person with a disability, gives me knowledge, and it is my role and responsibility to expand the information to the people left in the community. So I want to tell my friend with disability, the problem with people with disabilities, when we are seated, you can't prove that we have a disability. Our disabilities are different. I'm here with a disability, but my friend didn't know that I'm here. We have another friend of ours here with the same language. So COACT, thanks very much for bringing us on board.
Okay. Thank you very much to her, and then I will take just 3 more. I will close my eye.
Thank you so much. I'm Florence from Ministry of Internal Affairs. Mine is not a question, but I'm commending all the panelists in front there. The efforts they are doing that is scaling up government efforts. I come from Ministry of Internal Affairs. I coordinate a program on conflict early warning, early response. It's multi-sector. We work with Robina, we work with everybody in front there. And we've done a lot with their involvement. They've gone further to localize the government programs at those community levels. The efforts Robina talked about in Kasese, in other districts, Yumbe, wherever, we count on them as government. Now, interesting enough, the issue of climate change. Where I come from, the Conflict Early Warning and Early Response Program monitors conflicts in the 5 sectors. That is governance, environment, social, security, and economy. All that involved. Climate change is an aspect, and environmental conflicts that we do monitor. And now that climate change is a key driver to most of the conflicts, especially in those Karamoja region, where it drives pastories to the neighbors and cause a lot of mayhem to the neighboring communities. Those are all partners. Come to Dr. Katende, prevention of violent extremism. Where I come from, we are the people who are coordinating that program, the strategy on prevention. I'm not counting all efforts, but to build on, we have counter measures in place under police, under UPDF. Okay. But now we are building on efforts to prevent, and that's where prevention and curbing violent extremism comes from, sure. Which is a strategy now in the making and coordinated by our ministry. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. For Station Room, we are with you, the Women International Peace Center. We work together in all the efforts to promote peace building.
True, that's very true. Yeah. Thank you so much. Now, it is tight, but I will only take 3 questions from this side, and I will take 2 ladies and 1 gentleman. I am going to take 2 ladies and 1 gentleman. I need one of the mics to the Election Commission table because we've been talking about election violence right there. So you will choose amongst yourselves who is going to represent.
Thank you, Madrid. Our panelists. My name is Amon Atkwasa, and as I work as Senior Elections Officer in charge of monitoring and evaluation. I would like us to appreciate the strides that have been taken in this country when it comes to elective positions in this country. I'll just give a brief background. When you look at our parliament, you realize that 5% of people who are direct elected members of parliament are women who actually beat men, and those are 18 in number. That is in addition to the women representatives at the district level. When you add the total, it comes 34% representation in parliament for women. When you go down at the lower levels, there is a policy whereby 1/3 of the district stroke city councillors must be women, and that number is around 1,400. It represents, countrywide, it's around 30% of that. When you go to municipality or city divisions, it has also increased from 171 to around 778. Sub-county, towns and municipal divisions, it has improved from around 4,000 in 2006 to 12,000. Those are the numbers that we should appreciate as everyone in this room. Now, when it comes to electoral-related violence that we get interfaced with at every community, at every level, our challenge is all these women, including women councils and committee members, who are around 410,000 in Uganda. What have we done in our communities that can actually prevent these challenges? And these challenges are related to funding. You all know that women councils and committees have not been able to be done despite the numbers of women leaders we have in parliament. We have social media challenges during elections, where you see all sorts of men abusing women, and then the blame goes to electoral commission, goes to women bodies. But this is not the blame that maybe, I'm not avoiding the blame, but it's not that electoral commission and other government agencies have paid men to abuse women. And these are challenges that goes back into the culture, into our values and how we are raised up, as Dr. Helen said about. We have the media coverage, fair and balanced reporting policies or strategies. We challenge the media houses here. The attention that was given to, we had one female presidential candidate. The attention that was given to Linda Nancy, and the attention that was given to other presidential candidates. Let me give an example of maybe Mayambara and John Katumba. Was it the same? Did they project the manifesto of Linda Nancy? Do we even recall what was there? We have the challenges of civic education that are supposed to be conducted by civil society organizations. Those are the challenges. However, we have strategies that we have put in place as Electoral Commission, despite the challenges that are before us, where we have gender and equity policy, where we have integrated voter education and women issues at each and every district, and maybe the panelists and other civil society organizations can pick from there. We have media engagement, we have information dissemination. We have worked with UN Women, which has also supported us on Women's Situation Room at some of the districts where we have managed to do. But we have also worked with our colleagues from Uganda Police to arrest the offenders and take the next steps that are beyond us. So as we talk about electoral-related violence, I think it's everyone's responsibility. It's not only about women, it's not only about men that are in power. The women leaders the women leaders who are in a position of decision-making should also trickle down the information, because these are the people that voted them, and guard against election-related violence. I thank you.
Thank you very much. And because of time, I am pushing myself to end this because I don't want to stand in between your lunch. Yes, it's already 1:30 and we already had taken off time. Unfortunately, we can't be able to take in all the questions. They're extreme, and I don't even want to look this side because the hands here are immense. But I hope that some of the issues have been captured, and this is where I want to come back to the panelists. Some have been contributions to the discussions that we've heard, but some have actually come through as questions. Joanne, I want to start with you. In the quickest time, be able to respond to some of the questions that came in and also give us your wrap-up remarks.
Okay, thank you so much, Mildred, and thank you for the question relating to youth involvement in climate action. The strategies that are existing to have youth participation or inclusion in taking center stage on climate action are very many of them, and one of them is the use of art and music to raise awareness on climate change, mitigation, and adaptation. And I say this because we have youth groups that we are working with that are using art and music to raise awareness on climate change. They recycle, they use plastic bottles, they use straws to form art and crafts to make materials that can be sold. And they also use songs to raise awareness on climate change. Then in addition, exchange learnings are vital in mitigating climate change, where youth groups are able to interact with the others in different areas. For instance, youth from Kasese can interact with youth from Bududa and share knowledge on the challenges that are affecting them and how best they can move forward. But also to mention is that there is an intergenerational approach strategy that is being used to ensure that youth are not left out in climate change discussions. And with this intergenerational approach, we are looking at involving different age groups of people, the youth and the elderly, on how they can share knowledge, on how they can be resilient, on how they can take part in climate action. Then the other strategy is, of course, giving the youth platforms. For example, this itself is a platform where youth are supposed to come and air out their views at national level, at local level, but also it should be intentional enough in ensuring that they participate in decision-making processes. And so if there is a local peace committee that has to be formed that is meant to address climate change conflicts in a community, it should be intentional enough to ensure that there is youth representation on that committee so that they are able to advance issues that affect them as youth. And by doing that, there is inclusion in them. Then the other thing is that formation of youth groups, like youth should come up and form groups with clear intentions of advancing climate change and climate action. And in those groups, they should be able to come up with plans on mitigation and adaptation. And so those are some of the strategies in place that the youth can use in ensuring that they take part in climate change discussions.
All right, thank you very much, Joanne. Dr. Katende, you had just a few questions and you will also give us your closing remarks at that.
Well, thank you very much. I think I had a question from my sister there, but I'm sorry, I didn't hear any question about.
She actually also gave a suggestion to the question that you were,
So there was
cleared
almost
up your
nothing.
work for you.
Yes, but my wrap-up remarks is I want to thank UN Women and all the stakeholders around for the work we are doing in uplifting the status of women in Uganda and globally. But also to say there's still a lot of work to be done, and I want to give a few recommendations. One, I feel that there is need to fully operationalize all the legal, constitutional, and other frameworks that support women and youth involvement in countering violent extremism. I know already some work is being done, but I think still we need to know. As I was sitting here, I was asking who is going to tell my grandmother in Butambala about UNCR 1325? How would she get to know about this? I have my sister, actually yesterday, last night, as I was preparing my work, I talked to my sister who is a graduate in Kampala, and I asked her about this resolution, and she did not know anything about it. How are we going to take this information to all these people, because they need to have it?
Okay.
Two, there's need to build capacity of women and youth to be able to contribute safely and effectively to peace building. And I think here the role of education, that's where it becomes very important. We need to incorporate gender perspectives into PCVE programming and ensure that PCV programs and policies recognize and involve women as equal stakeholders. And actually, I feel women should even have more stake, women and youth should have more stake in this, because you are the ones who are mostly affected. Now, another is we need to avoid gender stereotypes that keep women in subversive roles. There is need to protect women and youth, basic human rights and fundamental freedoms. We need to ensure, we need to support and encourage women to get involved in violent extremism work, and there is need for local ownership of these programs. Now also I want to appeal to the government to allocate more resources to this work, especially the soft power. The government has many times relied on hard power, and sometimes I feel ashamed whenever we come to these workshops. Almost 80, 90, I know government is doing a lot of work, but we are always begging donors, say, now somebody, I think you know here, the government, where are you? Government, where are you? Where is our own government in all this work?
Okay.
Now something has to be done also about the cultural and religious norms. And that's where we need, I think, to involve the religious and cultural leaders and to work with them very closely to see that we address the cultural and religious norms that impede women's participation in peace building. But also, I think we need to ensure that women get, men get to understand that women are not competitors, but partners in PCVE work. Now, we should not feel, as men, we should not feel that we are doing women a favor by allowing them to sit at the table with us to discuss issues of violent extremism. That is exactly where they belong. They belong at the table with us. And there's need also to encourage critical thinking, especially among the youth. There's need to support women and youth and impart them with alternative to violence skills, because many of our youth don't know alternatives to violence. Every issue they think can only be solved through the use of violence. And also we need to ensure equal access to education and employment and facilitate youth and women participation in politics. And also we need to create awareness among women and youth about the dangers of violent extremism and what roles they can play. Now, all in all, what I want to say is that countering violent extremism is a holistic approach that requires the involvement of different stakeholders, all playing their roles. It's a whole of society approach. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Doctor. I expected there is a place where Doctor talked about we're not doing the women a favor. This is where they belong. We belong at the table. Dr. Helen, I want in the next few minutes, I know the state minister has to be leaving, so I'll give you 2 minutes to wind up before Ms. Robina as well concludes, and the minister will be closing off for us.
Thank you very much. I will try my best to do 2 minutes. Just to say to my sister that for the Women's Situation Room, we worked with the National Union of Women with Disabilities, to bring in, those group of women that you talked about. And I'm really sorry because in some of these programs, it's not easy to reach everyone, but when you're in these spaces, we get to know you, we have your contact, and then we're able to engage beyond the existing networks that we have. So thank you for mentioning that. Thank you very much, my colleague from Electoral Commission, for highlighting, those issues and the fact that women are doing very well. But just to note that Uganda has remained at 34-32%. We also want to see them do better. So when we are complaining, it's not because we are not doing well, but we want to go above 30% to 40-something%. So thank you very much for sharing the statistics with us and for calling upon us to work more with you, and we are open to that, and we definitely engage. In terms of the media, this program, we also hope to train media on gender peace and peace responsive reporting, because a lot of the violence that we also experience is based on the reporting we see in the covers of newspapers, and people can really react. So it's very important that we engage with them, bring them on board, but we also have a peace campaign that we are going to be running throughout the project to ensure that we promote peace and mindset change, values reorientation to address some of these social issues, including violence against women. We will also incorporate civic education, human rights, and peace building within our program, because the challenge is you can't train somebody on one thing and come back another day to train them on something else. We're going to be having community barazas, community engagements, radio programs, and all those things where we are going to be highlighting some of these issues with a focus to ensure that by the time we get to 2026, some of the problems we have must have been addressed. To conclude, we need, as a country, to promote mindset change that we enable everyone, each person, each individual, to respect one another, no matter who they are and what they are, no matter their age in the community. Ensure that we include people, everyone, all categories of people in decision making, in resource allocation, for us to be able to address poverty, but also to curb corruption, which is one of the things that is really causing a lot of these problems. In this way, we are going to be able to ensure that we achieve sustainable peace and prosperity for Uganda, as we have already envisioned in, we have Vision 2040 that we need to achieve. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Robina. I will give you another 2 minutes, I know, to wind up. There were more discussions than there were questions to you. Please go ahead. Kindly the microphone, Ms. Robina, did you forget that?
Sorry. On integrating women with disability, Tunaweza, your organization, is already a partner with COACT. We signed an MOU with you. You have been part of our capacity building workshops. We are sending you funds to implement an agreed action plan, and that process will continue. And my sister from Kasese, thank you for bailing us out. On youth engagement, COACT is actually very deliberate. We recruit young graduates from university because we believe, and we target between 6 and 10 from each district, so that they can go and work together to establish a youth-led peace-building organization, and they have done that. And this attracts them from the lure of violent extremism, but it also builds their self-esteem, because they are mobilizing those that live in the villages that are unemployed. Some of them have been playing pool since they left P7. Others have been involved in sports betting. They are mobilizing all those to come and join them in respectful peace-building work and teaching them about respect for self and others. So we are deliberate, but we are also enabling them to appreciate the intersectionality between the women peace and security agenda and the youth peace and security agenda. And I'm glad to learn that the Ministry of Gender is already beginning to think about developing a national action plan on youth peace and security. So our youth, the partnership that is mutually beneficial. You invite us to high-level meetings, we take you to villages. You know, it's...
I love the contrast.
Yes, yes. We take them where we go, and they take us where they go. And we hope as we implement WPS2, this partnership will continue. I would also like to mention that we deliberate on male engagement. We are deliberate on male engagement. Most of the groups that we work with, the men are the majority. They are actually the majority, other than the women mediators that we target and women-led CBOs, but really we work with men. I'm calling on my sisters here and brothers in the civil society that it is time for us to stop working in silos. We really need to work together in consortiums, in partnerships, in joint resource mobilization, in joint strategy development, because that way we actually go far and we achieve greater impact. So I want to thank you for this opportunity. I was happy to see the Honorable, my sister Huda. It had been a long time. So thank you, everybody, and may God bless you all in your efforts to build peace.
God bless you. Joanna, I'll give you a minute because you didn't give us your closing remarks, and we leave.
Thank you so much, Mildred. I want to conclude by saying that climate change is a big component that affects our daily lives in every aspect. And when it comes to the grassroots women and girls, it is actually more broader because they get to feel every pinch of climate change and every pinch of the disasters that happen. This is so because it affects their livelihoods, it affects their lives. Some people have lost their lives as a result of climate change disasters when floods have happened. And so I feel like having climate change as part of this program is a big achievement. Okay. But also I want to emphasize that maybe if there are opportunities later on, we could look at having a climate change as an entire program on how it is affecting women and girls in relation to peace building. And I want to conclude by also thanking UN Women for the spearheading this whole process and identifying partners, but also to thank the Women International Peace Center for having trust in NAPE to come along with the expertise in climate change and women's rights to see how we can contribute to women peace and security within our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A big round of applause to Joanne, to Dr. Katende, to Ms. Robina and Dr. Helen Kia for the brilliant deliberations that have come through. It's only time we should have gone up to evening, but we need to be winding up this. So I will allow, with all honor, to dismiss you, but I would like that you stand up for just a small photo opportunity because this will be a memory. Let's have all our panelists stand right up. And yes, our paparazzi is already ready and they will be taking this one on. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, paparazzi. I think we are almost done. Oh, he's right at the back. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining through. Those have been great deliberations coming through, especially on sustainability of localization of some of these programs, but bringing in issues of security and radicalization, but also climate, which is key. So thank you very much to our panelists. Feel free to depart from whichever side. But like I said earlier, the stairs, please, lest you, unless you want to remind us that you're physically fit, you can be able to use that. So ladies and gentlemen, as we get to close off, allow me invite the Commissioner, Mike Mabonga from the Ministry of Defense to come and invite our State Minister to give her closing remarks and officially get to dismiss us. Let's welcome him with a round of applause.
I respect all the protocols. Honorable Minister, I know you are late for your next event. I invite you to address.
Very, very interesting dialogue, meeting. I wish we were here the whole day. Even if I'm fasting, I don't feel tired, I don't feel hungry because of the information I'm getting from this meeting. We shall still consider the protocol that was already. They have given us a written speech and with a very nice protocol here, but still I'll go back to my Ugandan way of saying the protocol should be observed because we are looking for the time. Just on a lighter note, I really want to begin by thanking the panelists and those who have selected, those panelists who have all the knowledge. Very exciting, and everyone is a specialist in the area where he was. And very interesting in a way that if you are for the extremists, you couldn't see him or her crossing to the next one. That shows professionalism. Thank you for keeping the room very, very light. Just to give a small experience on what they are saying, I'm a politician and a member of parliament. I've been in parliament for 2 terms on affirmative action for women representative. I thought I matured enough. I decided now to go for direct elect, and I got the wrath. So when she was speaking here, I was just now reflecting back of what I went through. In my experience, one of the things that was used to, which they were using to bring me down, but I also let them down, was, said, why have you left your seat of the women? Why are you coming for our seat? This seat is for men. We have men here. For you to come to this seat, you are undermining us. And I come from a community who are 80% Muslims. Yumbe district, those of you who are working there. So they went to the Quran. I said, no. In the Quran, the women are supposed to be behind. It is the men to lead. Will you lead us in prayers? I told them, thank God I don't want to be imam or a district card, but I want to be a member of parliament. God was on my side that time the speaker was still also a woman like today. Then I said, how do you want to go to a parliament and you represent us when we are the leaders there in the parliament? I said, thank God I am going to parliament when the Speaker of Parliament is a woman, Rebecca Kadaga. So at least the women can understand themselves at that level. It will make me to bring for you what you want, other than these men. They went ahead. They said, but how can we elect? These are people who have been electing me in this parliament, but this time they said, how can we elect a woman who is going to make our seats dirty? It was going beyond. Then I also turned it. I said, any woman who can make their seats dirty, vote for the woman who can be like you can make the seats dirty. So I also went through some few men who were supporting me. I mobilized them. I said, you tell them that anybody who is saying, I will wait the seat, is abusing your mother, is abusing your sister, is abusing your grandpa. It was extremely hard for me. I even regretted. I said, why did I leave this? Why did I come here? But where I had reached, it was no retreat, no return. I had to be there. That is how difficult it is. And that's why you can see in this current parliament, we are only 18 women who are on direct seat. They get this, they go to another one, they go to another one, they will continue to drag you and bring you down. But if God gives you a wisdom that any negative word, you change it to positive, that's how you will survive. But for me to come back now, in 2026, if I'm there, I must work extraordinary, harder than the many colleagues in the same constituencies. If I don't do that, I will not come back. And that's the position of women. And it is that those of us who are here who have understood it, that we must work extra harder. With now perception in Uganda, they say, you women, when you start talk about it, you women, we are tired of you. Every time women, you know, they are bringing us down because they don't want your voice to be there. That's why when you see the current parliament now, those of you who are there, please engage us more. As women, we are almost now forgetting our position, that another extra role as we have as women members of parliament is to advocate specifically for gender equality. Follow our discussion in parliament. It is general. Because we have been over-pushed. You women were tired. You women. So we want to neutralize, but at the end, it will make us to lose the cause. So those of you who are here, please, the struggle continues. Among the panelists, you gave some of the factors that we need to look at. Therefore, I would request one of the major factors now that is contributing or that is increasing insecurity is land. It is an area that we must look at. How do we bring women in to own land? Now that land has become so scarce in Uganda, let us try to bring it and we fix it in everything that we are doing. Another issue still that we are working on, but still it needs a lot of our attention, is access to accessing justice for women. I know it is still a problem for everybody, but for the women it is last. It is worse. It is an area that we must look at. Women to access justice is still a challenge that we are looking to. Now, the districts that are hosting refugee countries, there's a problem of land pressure, there is a problem of dilapidation of the resources, all the forests have gone. Kindly, wherever you are working, if you are working with in the refugee hosting districts, can we consider the issue of the environment and we look at really repulsing or making the environment better by planting trees, by doing those other things that can protect. Otherwise, those districts are now already worse than these other districts that are not hosting the refugees because the population is too much. That is another area that we need to look at. Those were just few to summarize, but now, on behalf of the government of Uganda, and indeed on my own behalf, let me begin by appreciating the very strong sense of solidarity exhibited by the presence of all of you here in your different capacities at this very important event. This moves us a notch higher on our journey for peace and security, with the full active involvement of women and girls who are the most vulnerable in times of conflict. The launch of the second phase of the implementation of our third National Generation Plan on the women, peace and security therefore paves the way for its smooth implementation. This meeting has also showcased the high-level commitment of Government of Uganda towards implementing the Women, Peace and Security Agenda under the UN Security Council Resolution 1325. My ministry in particular is proud partner in this process. This is because we are inspired by our own realization that advancing the gender equality and the empowerment of women in a different spheres is a prerequisite for attaining sustainable peace and security. With the strategic value to the country in several ways, one way is that we harness their contribution to peace building and social cohesion in the country. Uganda's National Action Plan, as you already know, takes a holistic review of the security by addressing a number of issues that are potentially conflict drivers in the society and flexible enough to respond to any changes in the implementation context and emerging realities at the local level. Through this national framework, government alongside other actors is committing to play its rightful part by operationalizing specific ways by which we can mitigate the adverse effects of inequality in the country. My ministry, for example, envisages implementation of this program as an opportunity to create fair, equitable, and just societies within the country, build social cohesion, expand access to economic opportunities, as well as enhance gender equality and women empowerment. We have therefore conceptualized the implementation of the National Action Plan within the military structures, especially targeting the female combatants, the military veterans, and the UPDF spouses, in an effort to bring this aspiration closer home and to directly influence and create positive change in the lives of our communities. In this, we are addressing a diverse set of issues ranging from gender-based violence, the effective reintegration of the military veterans into productive civilian life, the women's socio-economic and equal access to opportunities. We champion in our setting the integration of both women and men within the military structures to enhance equitable advancement and growth, taking into account their respective capabilities. Work on our gender policy is moving on well, as I had earlier mentioned, and entailing with the consultations, the launch of the phase 2 of the implementation of the plan, then fitly will help us to scale up this effort. It is therefore a right and indispensable thing to do in building a strong and resilient communities within our military structures and the communities, which will result in a stronger, safer, and a more prosperity country. We shall work steadfastly in order to attain the aspirations of the implementation of the second phase of the National Action Plan. We are delighted with the strong and unwavering support of our friends in need. The Norwegian people, through their government, in supporting us to achieve the aspiration. We commit to continue with you in a responsible and accountable way to make real progress in improving the lives of our people as we strive to attain the outcomes invested in the National Action Plan. I wish to equally commend all the participants and the partners represented here for your invaluable roles in keeping the fight alive and the spirit in which you avail yourselves to better implement the National Action Plan. We further look forward to deepening our collaboration with the various partners and the stakeholders over the next couple of years as we implement this National Action Plan. And as a result, create a better country for all of us. This is not just another job we are giving ourselves, but a challenge that we are jointly addressing to create positive change in the lives of the population and a better world for all of us. Finally, I commend the good leadership of the Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, together with the resident UN coordinator, UN Women, and all other partners, particularly the Royal Norwegian Embassy in Uganda, which has galvanized all of us to action. Thank you all, and I now have the single honor and a pleasure to close the launch and wish you all safe journeys to your respective lives. I thank you all for God and my country. Lastly, I would want to have a special honor to have opportunity with one of my mentors who is here, Madame Robina. These are people who brought us to that parliament. They were treating us. Because when I came to parliament, I didn't even know what gender equality is, even empowerment. I think we were there by accident. But these are people who picked us. This is how you should do it. But these days, that's what I had said. I think these days you are not doing it the way you were doing it in 206. Either you have changed your direction, you decided to go to the community, and you have left the national level. Kindly, can I have a photo with you? That's a very special honor to me. She's here. Maria Matembe. I have this one for agriculture, specialist in agriculture, Victoria. Yes, Victoria. Yes. These are people who have brought us. So when I saw you, I was so excited. Thank you.
One act that you never know the fruits will be. Wow, this is great. Yeah, we keep. Where is the paparazzi again? All right. Oh, he's taking pictures from the back as well. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We need the new generation.
Thank you. I am going to request that you come back, Honorable, because now we have the main paparazzi who has come with a lens that can zoom in from as far. So I will just request that you get back and have your just push forward. I don't want to photobomb your picture. Exactly. That's great opportunity that speaks to mentorship, and let's continue doing, because the works that we do bear a lot of fruit, and we never know until someone gets to say, you mentored me. Thank you very much, Madame Robina, for ensuring that you have mentored not only a member of parliament, but minister also. All right, and ladies and gentlemen, I said I don't want to stand in between yourself and your lunch. And as the minister, before she settles in, I'll request we all stand up and take up the anthems, just a stanza each, before we can get to leave this place. So to our technical team, let's have the East African anthem and national anthem in that order. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This is officially closed. But I know that you have your lunch coupons. Please, please, please do not forget them because you will need to give them out as you get to the table. We're taking lunch from the restaurant, so as you get out, you will turn to your left, use the stairs, and continue down past the reception. And also, if you didn't register, kindly, we request that you do the registration, fill in your details, because we'll be thanking you for joining us in the course of the next week. So make sure that you register with all your details accompanying your registration. And then also, I am going to request our panel, I'm going to request our commissioners from the ministries for a photo moment just right outside. There is a photo booth. And for any one of us as well who wants to take a picture and remember that this day happened, please make sure that you can take that from our photo booth outside. Otherwise, thank you so much for making time. May God bless you and journey mercies. I am Mildred Tuhaise until we meet